All right, it is Saturday, 8/17, 2024, and I'm just going to open up the phones immediately. Last night I didn't get to it, and I had a couple of irate chatters who wanted to call in, and so I thought, this is a perfect time to reintroduce the voicemail. So I really want to emphasize that if you have something you want said and you don't have your own podcast, you can just call Infinite Plane Radio, leave a voicemail, and I will air it for a live stream audience and critique it. We will talk about what you're talking about. So if you're not able to get in during the regularly scheduled hours, yeah, just by all means, leave voicemails and the numbers on the screen. And second, we are returning the IPR 24/7 back to a central role in propagandizing our vision for the future. And we have a lot of new content which has been archived, but it's not been replayed because the 24/7 archives have not been updated. So I'm updating everything. We're back on 24/7. I have a live stream that will always be on Odyssey, Twitch, Twitter/X, DLive, and a backup YouTube channel. The main YouTube channel's just going to be for this, and that's because I can't trust whatever I said in the past isn't going to get us censored, so I have to be kind of careful with this channel. It's kind of our lifeblood in many ways. I want to say thanks to all of you who are carrying the blue wrenches and those who have dispensed those selflessly to the group. By the way, if you're in chat and you're talking, there's a good chance you may be handed a wrench because we do have people gifting memberships for others. I think I have a voicemail. Let's take a listen. Okay,
Is
so
this the voicemail?
yes, yes, to answer the caller's question, yes, this is the voicemail line. It works. Thank you for testing. Oh, we are joined by Airto, Ted Striker 2112, 3 up, 3 down. Inulfo says, I want to know if the monkey thing is their Christmas special. Yeah, is the money pox going to be a thing? I need to watch that Vince Vaughn bad monkey that came out on 8/14 the same day that the WHO declared this money pox thing a thing. The timing is too coincidental. But it's easier to fake. I just thought about this yesterday. I was like, you can have people falling on their faces in Wuhan and scare everybody into compliance, but it's not all that scary. Like compared to what we see in the movies, like zombie viruses, where it's physically uh, repulsive. Well, the moneypox is physically repulsive. You can actually tell someone has it. They can't lie about it, which means it's probably easier to fake. You could have some crisis actors with some grotesque makeup running around or going on Twitter or TikTok, which is where a lot of independent, there are independent crisis actors. They don't all work for big media. Many of them just create content for clicks, and we've talked about, engagement bait, rage bait. These are all crisis actors. Like, who was that one? One of these numbskulls was speeding down the road, and he had his children in the back seat, strapped into their children's seats in the back, like talking toddlers. These are toddlers in children's seats in a car, and he's speeding while live streaming. It's like, what are you doing live streaming with your children in the car? Much less speeding. And he said he was rushing to the store to get stuff in case there's a blackout or the power goes out because of a nuke. So he was hyping up this threat of a nuke and selling products. But I pointed it out at the time, he's crisis acting, and sadly his kids are being dragged into it. Joined by Reverse History, surfing the infinite plane on this gorgeous Saturnday. Thanks for joining. Watchdog, Roxy W's Invalus, Alguring, Exploring again, ears up. Okay, well, we should get a bigger crowd as the hours pass. It's still a little earlier than we normally start. Let's see. Let's go ahead and pick up on a couple of things. Just a general overview. The Onion predicts that print media is the future. It's certainly the future for what we're doing. And what we're doing is groundbreaking in the form that it's going to take. And we'll see this very soon. The IPS Insider is going to be released concurrent with AutoHoaxCon 1. And, for the last few weeks we've been talking about the archetype of Alice in Wonderland and how it's connected to Dorothy, Wizard of Oz, and Dolores in Westworld, and a number of other examples of this dynamic between this Hades underworld character, and then the young spring maiden archetype, or the girl taken into captivity by Hades. And I'd been pointing out that Alice is one of these such examples. And Pete Shea in a comment mentioned that Aleister Crowley made his followers read Lewis Carroll. I didn't know that. And it's interesting because so did L. Ron Hubbard. And L. Ron Hubbard and Aleister Crowley were, well, according to Hubbard, they were friends. But they certainly had the same religion. But one of them couched it in science fiction. But I came across this article in timescolonist.com, Decoding Alice. Victorian spent 18 years studying Lewis Carroll's masterpiece. Far from just a little girl, Alice stands for Persephone, Greek goddess of spring in her descent into the underworld, one of the oldest recorded myths. Many people first experienced Alice through saturated colors of Walt Disney's 1951 feature. Anyway, this is a mention of this, that others have also concluded this. And it's a significant piece of the puzzle, especially when you look at Westworld. And it's very similar, in fact, very analogous to Truman in the Truman Show. And then he has that Christoph character, who's sort of the Hades ruling over this prison that he's in, and he has to overcome it. And what's notable here is that Ed Harris plays Christoph, who is Truman's maker and oppressor and controller. And similarly, he plays the Men in Black in Westworld, who keeps the Persephone Dolores character locked in. And I mean, it's very intricate, it's very layered, and I'm going to likely make this the subject of a separate video as we start, I think, focusing more on produced, polished content that can be safely archived on YouTube. Another story, the timing of this is interesting. The founder of Anonymous is blowing the lid on this international cyber group's secrets for the first time, from the Daily Mail. Now, this is significant for a couple of reasons, namely that our main adversary, our nemesis, George News Goldfinch, his whole thing has been anonymous. He's one of the original Anons. I actually think he's part of the original group of 9 or 10 who started this whole thing. I'm fairly certain of it for a few reasons, which I may get into later. But I think the timing of it is interesting because a couple of days ago, I was looking up Garrett Ziegler's Telegram account to see where he was at, because he says that he's being buffaloed, railroaded, that Biden appointed a prosecutor and it's going to trial. Which means, as I said it would, that Goldfinch is going to be dragged out into the light. It's going to devastate him. It's going to destroy him. And I said we're going to watch him burn because he has millions of enemies built in. This is a big deal. If you think about the role he played in 2020 and 2021, the role in fomenting insanity among the fringe of MAGA, the JFK nonsense, a lot of this can be pinned at him, pinned right on him. He is the individual who was in the White House and the White House press corps, acting as sort of a liaison between Trump and his QAnoner base. This is like a dog whistle campaign, a PSYOP operative. But when it gets out who he is, where he's from, and who he knows, it's going to blow up. He's friends with Joe Rogan, not a popular person to the left, and he is the person that Garrett Ziegler hired to hack Hunter Biden's laptop. And this is the thing. Ziegler is he is being sued for hacking. It's the same exact act that I'm using to sue Goldfinch. It's this Computer Abuse and Fraud Act in California. He's being sued for this, and Goldfinch is going to come out. Now here's what just showed up yesterday. So I was looking at Ziegler's Telegram account, and in his last video rant, he said that he was being stalked, that every move he makes, every posting he makes is being analyzed by the opposition, which doesn't surprise me, but he admitted that he and Marco Polo, which is Goldfinch, spent $300,000 so far fighting against this, and they just had to pay another $18,000, and their motions to dismiss were all dismissed. It's going to trial. So he blocked me. Ziegler blocked me on Telegram, which I found to be unusual. Like, how did he know which account was mine? I thought I was being slick. Well, then I checked in on his BFF, and these guys are admitted friends. Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, what up, Infinite? It's Andy, the tow truck driver.
Oh, yeah, you called the other night. What were we discussing the other night?
Oh, I think the last discussion we had was when you were saying, would you rather have the something to do with the Taylor Swift thing, or would you rather have the ISS ball on the Taylor Swift concert?
Oh, yeah,
I don't know. We were
that's right.
talking about they called the two guys. Anyways, that's not really what I called about. I was calling because remember the other day when you were arguing with the guy about chemtrails. He's all, but the government documents say. He's all, look at the government documents.
Oh, yes,
Remember
yes,
that?
yes. Oh, that guy. Yeah, I remember that argument. I'm like, okay, we trust government docs now. I guess we went to the moon.
Yeah, and so my opinion on that is it got me thinking, and I've been thinking this all along. Is Operation Northwoods, that declassified document?
Yeah, that document has been used in the hands of Alex Jones specifically. It's been used to foment the false flag fallacy.
Yeah, that's been used by Trutherville all over the place. I've heard it on several channels. But my opinion of that is they would never, let's just say that was like a real document, which I think is just totally part of the predictive programming.
Right.
They would never put that out. If they actually contrived a plan to crash a plane and blame it on Cuba to start a war with Cuba, way back when Kennedy was president, they would never, ever release that to the public and declassify it. They wanted that out. In my opinion, they put that out as a part of like predictive programming to tie it in with 9/11 and say, see, they would do that. Here's Operation Northwoods document. That's my opinion on it.
That's
They
good.
put that out to they put that out to reinforce and put the that in people's heads the theory that, oh, see, it's just
Yeah, you know what? You nailed it.
shooters
This is
yeah, when they have a manifesto. Oh, look, see, we got the shooter's manifesto, and it details exactly what he's going to do. See, now we know. Like the same type of shit,
I
in
think
my opinion.
I think you nailed it. Excellent take here because I think as a rule, maybe we should make this an auto-hoaxology axiom. Leaked government documents should just be called props. These are movie props.
Exactly.
Manifestos are movie
Exactly.
props.
So that's exactly what it made me think of when that guy was saying government documents. They probably put that chemtrail controlling the weather document out to reinforce the bullshit. Same thing,
Okay, you know what?
in my opinion.
100%. I am writing up a new auto-hoaxology axiom. Government docs from now on will be treated as props, movie props.
Yeah, exactly. They're not going to put any kind of incriminating and damning documents out to make themselves look bad unless they want them out. It's part of the programming. It's part of the script or the Hollywood production. It's part of the meta script.
Yeah,
That's what I think about the whole.
it's also clever marketing because you're getting the counterculture people. That's what anti-media or alt-media, they think they're going against the establishment. And so for them to feed them propaganda, you have to use reverse psychology. Like, oh, they don't want you to see this. It's declassified. They don't want you to see this. It's
Exactly.
leaked. And they fall for it. Bait. It's all bait. Truth or bait.
Yeah, it reminds me of exactly with the scamdemic, how at first people were theorizing that this made-up fake virus it came from a lab, but they were censoring everybody that said it came from a lab. But now all of a sudden, when the lab leak theory becomes acceptable, oh, now you got CNN talking about it, you got all the big news media talking about it, and it reinforces the idea that the virus was real. Same thing.
Yes, absolutely. They're playing people between these two
Hmm.
poles, these two extremes, and it's like a herd of sheep. We watch them run one way, then they run the other way, and they're all chasing the same Judas goat, or whatever you want to call it. They're chasing the same shepherds. And you nailed it here, though. That's a great point because too many people will say, "But it's on a leaked government document," and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's not a good argument. We need more than that. That's too
No.
easy.
Yeah, they had the documents that they were cloud seeding in Vietnam to increase the monsoon season, so the Viet Cong would have trouble transporting their equipment and like that type of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, great point there. I
So
mean, I appreciate it because that's exactly what we're doing here is we're fine tuning our methodology for approaching media in this hyper mediated world that we all have to exist in. So, excellent points. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not all good with like connecting like a lot of some of your callers like Jurassic. What is it? Jurassic Liars? Is that his
Yeah, yeah.
channel?
Oh, yeah, but he's very much, he is a singular
Yeah,
entity. There's no one like him. So, I understand if,
he gets
yeah.
all like when these guys get into the numbers and the dates and the number of days in between things. Like I'm not like all savvy at doing that type of stuff. I can connect basic things like I did with these, in my opinion, on these so-called declassified documents. But yeah,
Well, this is
that's
what we
my
need.
opinion.
We
But
are, yeah, we are looking at the infrastructure of how the mediation process works. And what we're looking at are guardrails. Now we're finding movie props that are used to provide a reverse psychology angle to snare people in. Like, no, this is great. What you found here is definitely going to be put into the list of axioms.
yeah, I thought I would just throw it out there. Man, Infinite, you got one of the best shows in my opinion. Your viewership should be way higher. Like all the other, like when I have nothing to listen to when you're not on, and there's like fakeologists ain't doing a show, like just all the other channels suck. I was like these channels suck. I want something good.
Hey, I appreciate that. And
Like they like
we're going to fix it.
yeah,
Trust
I
me.
listen to it.
We're
I
going to
listen to it while I'm at work and when I'm at home and when you ain't on or fakeologists, like just the rest of these channels are just lame, like in my opinion. It's like I start listening to them just because I have nothing else to listen to, and I'm like, this is just straight Trutherville. Well, this is lame.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you can see the distinction because you know what? You are representative of a whole lot of people who've never heard of the IPS. And my objective here with this AutoHoax Con is to send out a signal, a beacon, which will pretty much gather anybody who feels the way you do about the mainstream alternative stuff and mainstream counter media, the controlled stuff. And I think we'll enlarge not only the pool of listeners and contributors, but we'll bring in more content creators. It'll be more, just more of this unfiltered, uncontrolled opposition, unlimited hangout. So that's something to look forward to. And I did turn on the 24/7 stream again, so we'll never be off. And I'll be going through old archives, and I'll try to keep it relevant and interesting.
Yeah, maybe next time I'll get a link to some of maybe your other locations to listen to your some of your material. Because the only way I know to find you, I think you're on Minds, and I don't know if you're on Odyssey, but I just go through YouTube. I'm surprised they even let you on. Like,
Oh, I am
really?
now. I am now because ever since I sued them, they kind of backed off me, and I've been monetized for about
Yeah.
4 months now. It's been a game changer. But we're always live on Odyssey 24/7. That's from now on, but that's where my archives are as well. So you can't miss it. It's Infinite Plane Radio on Odyssey, and Odyssey no
And
longer makes you watch commercials. So they just stopped that. Just so you know.
and the con is on. When is that's going to be through Zoom, or is that going to be like a live in person thing as well?
Both, but primarily it's directed at the Zoom audience, and I'll be handpicking and inviting certain people to participate and to witness. But the doors will be open to anybody who wants to show up here in Albuquerque for that event, and there's not going to be an admission cost. This is a Zoom conference for the most part, but I think the future ones, depending on where we go, we may actually open it up to larger numbers of people, depending on how this one goes. But this is just going to set the stage for what we do in the future.
Man, if I had the time and I didn't have to work so much, I would cruise down to Albuquerque and hang out and meet like-minded people.
Well,
But
that's a
unfortunately,
good point.
I'm stuck on the grind. But
That's a
yeah, I'll try to catch it on the Zoom. And it's the date is what was the date again?
928, and that's a good selling point. I need to let people know that if you come to these events, I'll let you know which when we're going to be doing the next one after that. 'Cause it's not going to be here. I want to do these in different places because we're promoting Autohoaxology 101. But this will be a great time to actually network and build this parallel media. The Infinite Plane Radio Press Club is meant to be observers and reporters and content creators who are outside of the main and alternative box. So it's like, yeah, hang out with some
Yeah,
non-brainwashed people. It'd be nice.
yeah, I agree. And like in all likelihood, like the auto hoaxers, we may not be right about every little thing, but I think I think you're more on point than most like other people out there, in my opinion.
Yeah,
It's impossible to be correct about everything, but I think you're right on the money, in my opinion.
yeah, we may be wrong in certain things, but the main thing is our approach is correct. Whereas everyone else is stumbling blindly, broken clock truthers. But no, we have the correct operating system, and we will get to the bottom of everything eventually. So we're not being guided by anything other than a skeptical analysis of the mass media echo chamber that we all coexist within.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was like a lot of these other channels, Trutherville. I used to listen. I used to take like I thought it was correct, but now that I've branched out with a more open mind by discovering the Fakeologist channel, and then I discovered you through him, like I don't believe it anymore. Like it just a lot of the stuff just doesn't make any sense. The only way like it makes sense is through the lens of autohoaxology, in my opinion. So yeah, I just wanted to call and throw that out there. Keep up the good work, and I'll hit you up another time.
Likewise, thank you for calling. Have a great weekend.
You as
And
well.
we'll see you in the chat. All right, excellent call. And the point he raised is a key one here, that too many people are willing to make their argument based on a leaked government document, and this is what truthers fall for. Because truthers are anti government. Liberals believe everything the government says. Truthers are generally not on the liberal side, and so their disposition is government lies. But they trust leaked documents? That never made any sense to me. And it makes total sense now to just look at leaked docs just like we do shooter manifestos. These are movie props, psyop props, trying to engage you in their alt reality game, movie enhanced or augmented reality, the world stage. Happy belated birthday to Watchdog. Very tragic day to have been born. That's Elvis's death day, but hopefully he didn't die. Hopefully he is Pastor Bob Joyce. It'd be nice to see a pastor who's not lying and bearing false witness, because that's what Pastor Bob Joyce is doing if he's not really Elvis. So I hope for his soul, his eternal soul, that he is Elvis, because you know what, where he will end up. Um, Till says, Tim, could you expand on the meteor predicting they'll hit Earth before the election? Was this prediction due to Netflix predictive programming? Yeah, the meteor I was speaking about is kind of metaphorical. Here it is. AutoHoaxCon number 1, 9/28/2024. The AutoHoaxology Convention is the planet killer asteroid. It's a world stage killer. So you have the Apophis 99942. They call it a planet killer because it's so big it might kill us all, and it's going to hit us on a Friday the 13th, April 2029. And I have been saying that there's going to be an incoming meteor designated AH 2024. We didn't have anything clear, but we knew it was going to be this year. It stands for auto hoax. So now we have it clear. It's in sight, and its new designation is AH 92824. This is a world stage killer. It's going to impact here in Albuquerque, and then the after effects, the fallout, the reverberations will be felt elsewhere. So we are predicting it for Saturday, September the 28th. And it's a planet killer in the sense that the world stage is a model that's false, and it's coming here to destroy that. So you can look forward to that, and you'll see on the flyer, I actually put an image of this up on top, and as it gets closer, we'll have more and more details. If you're interested in speaking, presenting anything, debating on anything, we're going to cover trutherism, predictive programming, psyops, media fakery, in a way that's never been done before in a conference. There have been conferences where you've had some very, I think, well-established media fakery analysts, but I don't know how many of them were full-blown Metascript decoders as well as auto hoaxers. I'm not sure. I want to find out. We want to find out and reach out to everyone. Find out who they are. If they're on the right side of the screen, they're on our side. So my objective with AutoHoaxCon is to get more speakers, and I can make it happen via Zoom. We don't need everyone to fly down here, drive down here. We can make it all through Zoom. I attended a Zoom conference last night as part of one of my IPR deep dives. As I said, I was going to be doing some investigative reportage into and research into magical philosophies, and I went to this pagan event last autumn equinox to do just this, and I've learned a lot in the last year. But I mentioned at the time that I joined, more or less, one of these little covens so I could explore, check out their libraries and their facilities, and learn more and see how active these things really are. Anyway, I attended a Zoom conference from this group last night, and yeah, it was interesting material. It's actually, they went over a book I've already read, but it was the format that I found very interesting and educational. Now I know how we're going to film this. I know exactly how we're going to present the graphics, interact with the chat. So the Zoom conference is ideal, and we can import people from across the pond who want to speak. John LeBon, obviously, fakeologist, obviously, we want to give people a place to platform what we're doing, because this is not about big numbers, it's about quality over quantity. We'll get the numbers later, but we have to establish certain parameters. Like, what are we? We're not tinfoil hat 5G phobes. We're not chasing Bigfoot or chupacabras. We have a very clear agenda here, and we're going to make it all very clear that day. And I'm going to open it up for Q&A. So it's going to be mostly a series of speakers, talkers, and debates, but I want to do a lot of question and answers. And the people who will be there live will have media. There's some local journalists that are interested in Autohoaxology 101. I've talked to them before. Additionally, I have a cinematographer because we are doing a documentary, which is tentatively called The Auto Hoaxer. And this documentary is going to be a compilation of various segments from these various cons that we do. And one of the points here is to invite people who will be triggered or challenged. And that's just good video, if you ask me, when people can't handle their preconceptions being challenged. Okay, so moving on from that, I want to get back to what we were talking about before the caller. Very great information, by the way. So again, appreciate all the callers. Okay, so the Garrett Ziegler character is the one being sued by Hunter Biden. And what hasn't been revealed to the public is that he recruited Marcus Goldfinch to hack that computer. And Marcus Goldfinch and Garrett are part of this business called Marco Polo. Now, nobody knows Marcus's name. Nobody knows who hacked that computer, and Garrett claims plausible deniability. He's like, I'm not smart enough to hack a computer. Couldn't be me. But he's not that slick, because somehow the other side, the Bidens, have found out that he may have employed a hacker. And so they are, in fact, going through the discovery process to find out the entire chain of custody the laptop went through. Well, I got the news that it's going to trial, which condemns Goldfinch to a tribunal in the court of public opinion, and it's going to be ugly. And then he posted this last night. I'm not going to read it all, but he said, public statement. George News, known in person by close friends in real life and social media platforms, wish to address the public with a statement regarding my personal safety. Given recent events or threats that might concern those that follow my work or my public life, I am of sound mind. I have consulted with medical professionals who can attest to my mental health. Regarding my safety, recent communications and events have led me to believe that there might be individuals or groups who wish me harm. I want to assure everyone I take my safety seriously. I'm taking precautions, enhanced personal security measures, open lines of communication with law enforcement. In the event of any unfortunate circumstances, I urge you to stay vigilant, but do not engage in retaliation regardless of what happens to me. To those who might feel inclined towards violence or threats, I urge you to reconsider. Violence solves nothing and only perpetuates a cycle of harm. And this is coming from a big-time QAnoner who've been calling for the heads of Democrats for like 7 years. He says, let's address our differences through dialogue and legal channels. This loser has been dodging service papers for 6 years. You think he gives a crap about legal channels? He has no respect for the system. If he did, he would have answered my first claim. Final note, he says, this statement can be considered in full in any future discussions of legal proceedings concerning my well-being. I am documenting my mental state here for clarity and legal purposes. Thank you for your support, George News. He sounds scared. He sounds like he's waving a white flag, like a surrender. And it's like, no, I don't accept a surrender. I will not reconsider anything. I mean, this guy needs to be put in a cage, and so does Ziegler. And he needs to be destroyed publicly by the left, the rabid left, anti MAGA, anti Q media, and everybody on Reddit, all the Reddit psychos. They all need to go like ants, like on a piece of roadkill. They just got to just devour this thing until there's nothing left. Because this will be a feast, honestly, for all of the people who are looking for rage bait, engagement bait, clickbait. This is a very intriguing story because you have so many angles. You have the person who's connected personally to Trump in the White House engaging with Q behind the scenes while Trump pretends he doesn't know what Q is. And this goes on for years. Then you have the insurrection thing. This guy's never been charged. Well, he's one of the main instigators. If you look at the influence of George News, he is the source of the JFK Jr. nonsense. And he's been able to remain out of the spotlight even though he's known to Alex Jones. He's known, admittedly, to Joe Rogan. So Joe Rogan and Alex Jones both know this guy. And there are others I can name as well. They know him, and they didn't bother to say, hey, ignore this Q stuff, this deep state nonsense. It's all fake. It's a government psyop. No, nobody told anybody. They played into it. And so Jones will have to answer to his fans. Joe Rogan knows Q, hasn't talked about it. You think that would be something he'd talk about. It's not like he doesn't have a platform. It's a big story. But the fact that it's been kept a secret is both a stab in the back to MAGA, the MAGA ban, and Q Town, and it's also going to enrage the left to know that Q has been in the White House press corps this entire time. So it's a disaster piece waiting to happen. I have a lot of different angles and a lot of different groups of enemies of his that will be given all the relevant information. We are talking about a criminal here. And then you have my own lawsuit. I'm suing Google, YouTube for what, $5 million unlimited civil, and he's the co-defendant. I have evidence against him, a confessional, a statement of malicious intent, and these are prosecutable crimes, identity theft, as well as computer fraud and abuse, wire fraud. It's I had 6 causes of action, and that's just scratching the surface. That's just YouTube. I'm still suing him again in conjunction with Spotify for the same exact thing that I sued YouTube Google for. So his problems are just going to they're just going to begin. But the instant he's doxxed and he's made a named defendant in this case, I'll start serving him legal paperwork for the cyber squatting and other things, but through his attorneys, through their attorneys. Like, he will not be able to dodge paperwork or hide anymore. Meanwhile, he's going to be eaten alive by the leftist media because he's basically the closest thing. If there is a Q, I mean, Q's a construct. It's a psyop. But if there is a, quote, Q, if there is somebody that you could say, well, who pushed enter on every one of these Q drops? Yeah, there's a human being there. There's a human being responsible for all that Q stuff. Who was the dealer? Who's the hopium dealer? Who's the person who hooked all these MAGAs on this narrative? Well, it's this guy. He is one of the main characters. And he is also part of the Anonymous movement. That's why I think it's interesting that the founder of Anonymous has suddenly blown his cover. This just happened today. The founder of the hacktivist gang Anonymous has blown the lid on the highly secretive group for the first time in a newly released documentary. What started as a small group with 10 people grew to an international organization. Many are now in positions of power, from state reps to government advisors. Who could that be? A government advisor? One of the 10 people behind this thing is a government advisor? So I haven't seen this documentary. It just came out, but the timing of it is very interesting. And again, Goldfinch claiming that he's afraid for his life, waving a white flag. I think that's good news. Okay, moving on here. Deprogrammed Truther says, about time Garrett and Marcus show fear. Oh yeah, I could see Garrett in that last video before he blocked me from his Telegram, where he was crying, whining, because he spent he has to spend $18,000. He has to pay because his motions were denied, and he has to pay the other side, and they're billing him for it. He's pretty mad about it. And I listened to his whole thing, and he had named a couple of people, a couple of AGs who are apparently instigating investigations against him, criminal investigations. He's acting miffed that he's going to be considered to be a hacker. And once Goldfinch comes out, he's been accused of hacking. I have dozens of FBI filings. I've filed reports against him for a long time, but there's even more. His branding, the whole George News thing has an anonymous branding to it, a hacktivist organization. So he's wearing the logo, the mask of the biggest hacking organization in the world, or the most famous one, and he's working with Ziegler, who is being charged with hacking or investigated for hacking. Like, it's not going to be hard for the media to put this together. Jessica Lynn says, I saw an article today that bananas are at risk of going extinct. Monkeypox. The timing there. Jessica Lynn says, curious, what do you believe about an eternal soul? What do I believe? I would use the word no, but I can't, because I can't expect someone else to take anecdotal as anything more than wishful thinking or however they want to interpret it. But the last three deaths that were close to me were subsequently followed by things that I would consider to be indications of a continuity of consciousness after. I can give you a good example. And this one had witnesses. I mean, I don't talk about ghosts and the paranormal, but like, I don't think life ends when the body dies. I don't have any reason to believe so. And this one particular incident was pretty clear to me. And I guess it's Saturday. We don't have to stick to just news, so I might talk about it if people care to hear. Andy Newful says souls don't exist. We're just chemicals, electricity reaction in a meat suit. Yeah, we're just over-evolved apes with big egos, trying to feel important while we stand atop this rotting corpse universe that won't be here eventually. Till has gifted 10 memberships. 10 Blue Wrench Lodge members have just been inducted. Observing Reality, Romeo Fuzzy Feet, Jam Z, Yagtavius Prime, Enslaved by Truth, Sit Down, Joe Mama, Pineal Power Podcast, Ski 1384 have all received the Blue Wrench. Peter Territory says, does Toilet Bowl Earth think there's a curve? You're talking about Crater Earth, right? Interesting question. Now that I think about it, Crater Earth would be better described as Petri dish Earth, because they believe that there is some kind of a barrier and that we're kind of dug in a bit, but it's not really a crater because it's not from an impact from a space rock. So it's not exactly even what you would, it's not like hollow Earth, it's not cell Earth, and cell Earth suggests that there's, and this is not something that is talked about very often because Lord Stephen Christ ascended, or descended. Maybe Lord Stephen Christ descended into the center of the hollow Earth. He's the hollow earther. But he called it cell Earth. And he said that the way it works is infinite space is actually like infinite matter, and we are in a womb or a cell or like a bubble of atmosphere and land, but we are, how is it? We're on the inside of the ball, if that makes sense. Edward X. Young Jr. is going to the 84th Trump rally tonight. Rumor is he's JFK Jr., says Jessica Lynn. Yeah, he's either JFK Jr. or he's another grifter, and he's just tapping into the JFK Jr. fan base, groupies. A lot of these older gentlemen, the age of JFK Jr., or the age he would be, which isn't that old. It's like, well, he would have been, what, 63? He's like Obama's age or something. But you have a lot of individuals who are just saying, yeah, I'm JFK Jr., and the women go crazy. The MAGA women go crazy. There's going to be a lot of JFK Jr. Juniors being born in the next couple of years, possibly. I don't buy Edward X. Young on his looks. Maybe it's a mask. I mean, but I look at the hands, the arms, the body. It doesn't add up to me. The posture, the voice even. However, there are some interesting clues there. Pocahontas FTW says Tim for the win. Oh yeah, regarding this thing with Google, YouTube. Yeah, absolutely. They need to pay. And I don't mean money. Like they need to be humiliated. They need to apologize. They need to apologize to Trutherville. Like I'm not a fan of Trutherville because of who controls it, but the people who are trapped in that little box, they've been mistreated by YouTube. They've been unfairly maligned, impugned, and if anybody needs to know the truth about how gamed and rigged the system is, it's them. It'll give them some vindication. Like, yeah, apparently you flat earthers are such a threat to the system that they took special care to marginalize and destroy your whole networks of people talking. And you know what's dumb about this? I mean, 2016, you had Google, was it Google Chat, where anybody could just walk in to a or log into YouTube and very easily join into group chats. They were all night conversations, dozens of people lining up to jump on a panel and talk. And people would talk and fight and argue about flat earth all night long. And it was fun. But they killed that because, oh no, that's bad, that's the wrong answer. But if you think about it, you just destroyed a lot of your most, I would say, some of the most addicted users. I mean, these people were always online, always on YouTube, always talking, forming friendships and networks, and it became this big community. But what they did when they shut it down is they destroyed that, but let's just say they left it on. What would have happened? If the Earth is as they say, they would have figured it out eventually, and they would still be using the site. You didn't have to just shut it down. Like, you just have to give them time to figure it out. But no, they decided we can't even have wrong answers out there. And this is the problem. Free speech, free flow of information means we should have access to wrong answers and right answers. We should be able to know the difference between right and wrong when it comes to these questions that we're asking. We should be able to figure out for ourselves. But they don't want you to know. They don't want you to be able to tell the difference between right and wrong. They want you to defer to Big Brother. Oh, if it's on the screen, it's right. If it's not, it's wrong. It's misinformation. That's not thinking. That's following. That's believing. That's where they want you. Okay, moving on here. Jessica Lynn says, I see I'm in the wrong place. Defo had my suspicions. Thanks for confirming. This is the right place if you are done with the big lies that you're obligated to believe, contemporary myths. If you're done being lied to and having liars placed as arbiters of truth over you, this is the right place for that. Okay, let's continue. Mr. Beast has reportedly hired the same lawyer as Harvey Weinstein. Fans are lining up to worry that Mr. Beast is truly guilty. Here is Mr. Beast with the checkerboard floor. Real name James Donaldson. What is his significance? Well, he's the most popular, the biggest YouTube live streamer. I've never heard of him. I mean, I've heard of him. I've never watched him. He never came across my feed. This was not pushed onto me. I was never even slightly interested in this character. And there's some scandal attached to him. And he hires Weinstein's lawyer, which is kind of shady, and it has people wondering what is up with this character. But his name, again, James Donaldson, and Beast has had some people bring up Donald, as in Donald Trump, and Beast, thinking there might be some kind of predictive programming relationship between the two. And there may be. Mr. Beast's logo has this wildcat beast looking thing, and its right ear is clipped on the top where Trump had his ear tagged by the AR-15. The lobe is what he calls it. Conscious Daughter says, Super Chat $5. Thank you, Tim and IPS. I appreciate your hard work and consistency with your channel. Yeah, absolutely. This is a collective effort, and it wouldn't be possible without your contributions as far as chats, ideas, commentary. I mean, this is a think tank. I don't think one person could have seen through the programming and how it is divided. I mean, we can all see the basic bifurcation, but as far as the distinction between viewing the world through the lens of alt media mainstream versus viewing it with the full awareness of hoaxery and psyops and special effects. That's the big development here. People don't know how special effects have enhanced or augmented their reality. Yeah, is Edward X JFK Jr. Let me bring him up. You can all look. I don't know what's going on with this whole thing. Like, how many people can do this before it just eventually falls apart? So this is Edward X Young. Now, if somebody thought that I was somebody that I'm not, I would say I'm not that person. I wouldn't accrue a fan base based upon a misconception. Like, oh, we all thought that you were this person who's fighting the deep state, who went undercover, faked his death, his son of a president, America's prince. We thought you were this big deal, famous guy, world savior, but no, you're just some grifter. Thanks for letting us know. But no, he didn't let us know. Now, this could be a mask, but that's not enough. You can't just look at a photo. You have to analyze the video, height, movements, and everything else. And in my opinion, this guy's less JFK Jr. than Vincent Fuchsia. Edward X. Young is a actor as well, acting and stage directing at Brooksdale College. And here are a few of his movies: The Killer Meets Clown, Creepy Clowns, Bigfoot, Blood Trap, Mr. Hush, Paranormal Captivity. A Trump supporter named Edward X. Young poses as former U.S. President Donald Trump's attempted assassination. Let me see if I can find some more pictures of him. Okay, here's his page. Is this whole thing a psyop, though? Are these individuals like feds and they're being told, hey, go out there? Now, this is weird. He's posting Elvis stuff. He says, remember Pearl Harbor? He could just be an internet weirdo. He's got a green MAGA hat, which is somewhat distinctive, and he's been to many MAGA events. Here he is holding a skull. Kind of ominous. Chiller Theater Expo Halloween Festival. Something called Son of Gacy. Okay, anyway. He seems to be very active. He's doing summer karaoke. So based on what I've seen here, the karaoke scene, I'm really doubting that this is JFK Jr. Ted Stryker says the cat ear tip is the universal sign for a spayed or neutered free roaming cat. Okay, I hadn't seen that before. I haven't really followed the Mr. Beast drama, but the Weinstein thing is just sort of a red flag for a lot of people. Kind of like Trump. He had issues with his plane, and then the next thing you know, he's on Epstein's plane. Okay, this is Infinite Plane Saturnday, open phones for open minds, 505-510-4226. Elon Musk said something regarding Grok and how people are mad about the images that are being created, and he said, it's like blaming your pencil when you write terrible things. Well, that's a terrible analogy. I mean, it's kind of okay, but not as good as what I had said and what I've been saying. I mean, my analogy was that censoring Grok like they censored Bing would be like taking away everybody's crayons because one child wrote some bad words or one child drew a picture of Mickey Mouse with an axe in his head. But the same concept here. It's a tool. It's a tool. And you have people really mad because people are generating images that they don't have the skills to do on canvas with oil paints, but they can create something as good just by typing a few prompts. And apparently some people want this censored. Like they want to block some of the images you can create. And to me, this sounds like they're suggesting that we should censor the imagination. Like, censor the imagination? Like, you can't think these thoughts. So I can't do the prompt that says, I want an image of Donald Trump with an Uzi hijacking a plane and flying into the Twin Towers. Like, that's a horrible thought. But if you look at the entertainment industry and all the movies, violence in music, people think a lot of dark thoughts. Do we want to censor those? And where do we draw the line? Are you allowed to take violent lyrics and put them through an image renderer and create something that is spawned from those lyrics? Like, who are these people to try to draw lines about what you can around and guardrail how you use your own mind? So, anytime you see articles describing how they need to use guardrails to control AI, and this has been a big conversation, so many headlines right now bringing this up, they're talking about guardrailing your mind. Federal News Network, the imperative of AI guardrails. Grok 2 arrives with AI image creation with few guardrails. X's AI image generator debuts with few guardrails. NBC News 2 days ago. And as I brought up before, the term guardrails wasn't widely used in media until this. And I have a book called Guardrails about how free minds are steered into controllable boxes with these, what I call guardrails. So I put this term out there and they've appropriated it. Noxious images spread after Elon Musk launches AI tool with few guardrails, further dragging X into uncharted territory. How guardrails allow enterprises to safely deploy AI. But let's look at this Washington Post piece. This just came out 22 hours ago. Noxious images. These are images that are created off of prompts. Prompts are like, in a way, kind of like poems. You can consider them to be short poems, a little poetic statement, a little description of something. And so what they're essentially doing, in a way, is also banning poetry, or they're suggesting we need to put guardrails around the words in your head and the order in which you place them and the words that you select, because you can create a visual depiction. Like, why not just ban the words? Because you can say some words and put an image in my mind. You can prompt the imagination of someone with words. That's how false memories are created. You know, the Mandela effect? It's created with image prompts. Which do you remember? Pikachu with a black tipped tail or Pikachu without? Well, when I said Pikachu with a black tipped tail, I prompted an image in your head, in your mind. And now you have the real version and the prompted version side by side competing to see which one's going to be real. And if you're Mandela affected, you go with the prompted one, not knowing it was prompted. My point being, it's automatic. People can communicate and prompt things in your head, whether or not they're rendering it as a sculpture, as a painting, or through an AI generated image. It doesn't matter. The principle is the same. So anyway, they're going for your minds. Thought control is the next phase. Okay, phones are open. Let's catch up on comments. Slick Rick says JD's tattooed blue eyeliner looks amazing. Which one? Oh, you talking about Vance? Yeah, what a boring group of politicians. I mean, none of them are all that interesting to me these days. But I think that we're also looking at a contrived and predetermined outcome, and I'm not going to be caught up in it. Do you remember how much people were so caught up in 2020 because they believed that this was saving the world, that they and you don't hear him, but prior to and leading up to January 6th, a lot of people were just openly saying, yeah, we have to storm the Capitol. Not in those words, but it was stop it, stop the certification. There was so much talk about how they were going to stop the certification and Trump was going to become the 19th president. Do you remember all that? Yeah, he's the 19th president of the American Republic. The corporation's dead. There was so much rhetoric and so much energy that people were directing towards the outcome of that event. And we auto hoaxers are dodging that this year. We will not be involved on an emotional level or engaged or married to any specific outcome. I'm just examining this thing objectively. And based on my take on predictive programming and Netflix and specifics, and I guess Civil War, the movie Civil War adds to this. And we talked about this a little bit because the director of Civil War did 28 Days Later about an ape-borne virus, a chimpanzee virus or something, a rage virus that came from chimpanzees. But in Civil War and other movies, you have foreshadowing of Kamala Harris, President Harris. My question is she going to become president before the election? Because that would make her 47. And Trump would then have to aim for 48. And his merchandise line and all his hats would be ruined. He's wearing 47 preemptively. Like that's kind of a gamble if you think about it. Okay, let us continue. The 24/7 is back on, and it'll be on the backup YouTube channel, by the way. So if you tune in to ips.monster, you click any of those links. It's not just 24/7 video, which I'll be curating and selectively choosing archives that I think will be relevant or interesting, but there will be a chat as well. Disbelieve by Default was the live stream title from yesterday. Disbelieve by Default, which was said by the official Minds.com account. Minds.com said, should this be the official motto of the internet, disbelieve by default? Well, it should be, but it's too late. And it's not just the internet. And it's actually empty. It's an empty slogan if it's not coming from our perspective, of one that's apprised. I would say a perspective fully apprised of the inclusion of psyops as the norm, as the rule, not the exception. Deprogrammed Truth, it says not voting. I have a registration card back. I may vote for Harris, because it's a protest vote against the compulsory GOP vote that truthers get into, and I don't think voting matters. Why would it matter? Voting isn't what people think. The media is not what people think, and I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to go along with the charade. But by voting for Harris, I can make an effective statement, because anybody who's mad about that will then be asked by me to review their own opinions and feelings towards what voting really means. Jessica Lynn says, there's a Gerald Ford speech that talks about how we get the first female president, Herbert Hoover Library, and she was born the day Herbert Hoover died. That's really good. And I'm sure many of you have seen it. I have played it before, but it would be worth playing again. Because yes, Gerald Ford had this hypothetical situation, which sounds really strange, where he did say, yes, there's going to be the first female president, but it's going to happen after this other president dies in office. Like, he had this whole spiel. But the fact she was born on the day Herbert Hoover died, that's new to me. And that is a big tell. So let me pull that up. Gerald Ford predicted, and this is on Snopes, the world would have the first female president after her predecessor died. This is from 1989. And the claim is correct. The claim is correct. Former U.S. President Gerald Ford once said he believed the U.S. would have its first female president after her predecessor, a male president, dies, and she moves into the position via vice presidency. Okay, and I have a video here of Ford making that statement, and I have a quote from it as well. Well, I hope we do have a young lady become president of the U.S. I can tell you how I think it'll happen, because it won't be the normal course of events. Infant Plane Radio.
Hey, dude, I don't want to interrupt whatever you were just talking about, so go ahead and finish it and let me know when you're done.
Well, actually, I was going to look up Kamala Harris's birthday, and then I was going to look up October 20th, 1964, and then I was going to look up Herbert Hoover's death date. He's the 31st president, and let's see, October 20th. That adds up. That's crazy, because he's the guy that predicted the first female president would get in via the vice presidency when the previous one dies. Fascinating.
Yeah, and I heard about that also, about that. Yeah, look, the whole thing with Kamala, the reason I just called is because I heard you talking about Gerald Ford, and I want to talk about him for a second. But the Kamala, I told you, is connected to Elvis going to the Space Needle. I told you that, right? Do you know what the connection is?
Why don't you reiterate all of this? And I know you mentioned it. It has to do with the verse about the rich man can no more make it through the gates of heaven than a camel through the eye of a needle. So there's this needle camel thing. Was that what you were referencing?
Oh well, that too, because Elvis is the B side of the sea. So I was, yeah, you're talking about, yeah. I wasn't really talking about that, but yeah, Camel sounds like Kamala, whatever. But forget about that. I was Elvis filmed the movie. It happened at the World's Fair, right? And he was the first famous person to have anything to do with that Seattle Space, because he was in it. But on his way there, he stopped in Washington State. I mean, before going to Seattle for the filming to start it, he stopped in Kalama, Washington, which is Kamala, same letters, but just two of the letters are switched around. So it was Kalama, Washington. He stopped in right before he went to, and that was, by the way, that was on my birthday, 9495 connection, because that's when he started filming it on 9495, the Space Needle movie.
Okay, and this is interesting. Kamala. Yeah, I heard you talking about it. I think you even mentioned Camelot. Are you getting into the names? And
With the JFK,
yeah, and
the JFK Camelot, yeah.
exactly. Okay, very interesting. Is a Kalama? I'm looking at it now. It's a city in Washington State.
Yeah, that's where he had stopped before he went and filmed the Space Needle movie. He slept there that night before going to the set to film the Space Needle movie. But really, what I want to call about was that Gerald Ford thing. Uh, Elvis was known as the King, right? And Seattle's in King County, right?
Right.
Okay. Guess what Gerald Ford's real name is?
Oh, Franklin Del. Wait, no. Let me bring this up. Gerald Ford's real name. You want to tell? If you want to tell me, that's cool. I'm gonna.
No. I'd rather you look it up
Okay.
if you can.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Uh, Gerald Rudolph Ford Jr.
He has a
And
he has
then
another name.
okay, I'm pulling it up here. Born Leslie Lynch King.
I mean, can you believe that? First of all, it's got the King, and then it's got the Lynch. They're going to lynch the King. Get it? King County. All right? And go ahead.
No. This is I see it here. King County Lynch King, and then he talks about a president dying, and on his death day, the predicted president that he had hypothesized happens to be born. Very interesting timing in all this.
Yeah, and what's important about that is that don't forget the connection with Lynch, because the Beast Quake in Seattle had to do with the football player who ran that touchdown, whose name was Marshawn Lynch, and it was the Beast Quake on Elvis's birthday, January 8th, 2011. And on that day, Gabby Giffords got her head wound on Elvis's birthday. You see how it all connects? Because the Seattle Quake, Marshawn Lynch, because Lynch means something to do with the head. Get it?
Oh yeah. Actually, now that you bring that up, okay. Lynch, asphyxiation. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. That whole slogan. It's all very ritualistic anyway, because one of the myths of the death of the king, the Sun King Osiris, that was played out with the George Floyd thing, is the one where he's suffocated in a casket. But the asphyxiation is a big part of this whole narrative, and so Lynch does tie into this death of the king.
Yeah. And another thing I was bringing up, the fact that he was the 38th president, okay, and he had the king in his name, his real name, and then what was this was in 1977. So in 1977 they transferred president from Gerald Ford, who was still president on January 20th, you know what I mean? And then they transferred it to Jimmy Carter. So it went from the King guy, Gerald Ford, to Jimmy Carter with the JC, which is
JC.
Jesus Christ.
Right.
And Elvis the King died that year. which is the same year Seattle Slew won the Triple Crown, on June 11th, So, and you know what 38 and 39 equals? 77, and that was the year, 77. And the 38, 39 president. See what I mean?
Yes, yes. These are big red flags or indicators, and 77 intrigues me because you got the Pentagon, 77 feet high, hit by Flight 77 after a 77-minute flight, and it was built. The construction began on 9/11. It was 1941, 9/11. So that's connected. The number 77 is intrinsically connected, as all these numbers have special significances. But
Well, can I tell you what's important about the 77? It's actually the 33. Can I explain to you why?
yeah, yeah, please.
Because G is the seventh letter, and if you go through the alphabet and go back to the G again, it's 26 letters later, it becomes 33. So it's seventh letter, then 26 letters later, it would be the 7 again. 7, 7 says GG would be the 33.
I see that.
7. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, and
Yeah.
okay. Now speaking of numbers and stuff, because this is all weighing in. I mean, this is all lining up because this is the 47th. That's what they're competing for. Who's going to be number 47? And this is the 47th anniversary of Elvis's death. The 47th year
Right.
since 1970. Is that 1977?
Yeah, this is the big one. Yeah, this was what they were waiting for this whole time. See, I thought they were waiting for Seattle Slew to be the 47-year anniversary, but that already went just this year. But see, they both died in the same year, but it was the 47-year anniversary of Seattle Slew winning the Triple Crown on June 11th in 1977 was this year. But because Elvis died a few months later, now Elvis turns 47 years dead, and then next year will be the Seattle Slew event, because the real Seattle Slew, the slewing of Seattle.
Yeah,
It had to be in the 47. Go ahead.
okay, and the 611 thing. Every pretty much every year, there's been some significant development along this narrative, and I still think one of the biggest clues is the destruction of that hospital that looked like the Georgia Guidestones, and the Batman movie where Gotham went under water on 11/6, the same day that hospital was destroyed. So that 11/6 611 code is huge, and it's connected to the nuke. Oppenheimer, he wore a K6 badge, 611. The film was 11 miles long, weighed 600 pounds. Like, they encode this 611 11/6, and it's intricately connected to the atom bomb. So when you say Seattle's going to get nuked on 611, or there's going to be some big event, yeah, it aligns, it comports with the predictive programming, and it didn't happen this last time, so they don't change their dates. These are set in stone. They write the stuff in advance. So
Yeah,
I'm
it
looking.
is set in stone. And speaking of stone, that's what I was just about to bring up, is the Georgia Guidestones. And just like you were saying, that hospital that was demolished where Elvis was pronounced dead looks just like the Georgia Guidestones, and it was demolished on 11/6.
At 3:30 p.m., he was pronounced dead on August 16th, 1977 at 42 at the Baptist Hospital on Union Avenue in Memphis. And yeah, that Baptist hospital, which they demolished on the 11/6, had an uncanny resemblance in its structure to the Georgia Guidestones. And I actually did find a video of them destroying it, but yeah, very fascinating symbolism here.
Yeah, and the Georgia Guidestones was obviously put up at the the Skull and Bones number 322 in 1980, and that year Elvis was 45 years old. Because see, everything's about the 42, the 45, and the 42, 47. Because Trump is the 45, 47, Elvis is the 42, 45, 47. See, Elvis is the number one, but he needs all those numbers. See, everything they're doing is for Elvis. Elvis is the Antichrist. Trump is the Antichrist in the flesh. See, they're mocking God because God, when he was walking the earth, Jesus was in the flesh as God, and God was still in heaven. Anyway, but I'm just trying to make you understand the whole scenario. It's all about the 42-45, 42-47, 45-47
Yeah,
connection.
let me add on to it because the Guidestones, yeah, they showed up in Georgia, and the George name is significant in this thing because for a few reasons. But 1980, 42 years later, is when they were broken, when they were bombed. But they blew up on 7/6, which is George W. Bush's birthday, and he turned 76. So the 7 times 6, 42. The fact that it's on a Skull and Bonesman birthday, and from above it did look like a skull and crossbones, and each of the stones weighed 42,000 pounds. The capstone I think weighed a little less, but each of those the guide stones were 42,000 pounds.
Yeah, and he was, and like I said, Elvis was 45 years old. If he was alive, he would have been 45 years old that year when they erected it. So that's just, that's just another connection to this, ridiculous, puzzle.
Well, Georgia
But
Guidestones, GG77, and when you look at them from the side, especially after they knocked down one of them, it had this uncanny resemblance to both twin towers, like these twin monoliths, and then between them it looked like a space needle. So you have these overlapping connections, because I associate the space needle with 311, because of course Seattle was ground zero. So you have 311, 911, all these things do correlate, and this is all ritual destruction, whether it's the hospital or the Guidestones. These things were interconnected.
yeah, and don't forget that the three presidents, Trump, Bush, and Clinton, all were born in the year 46, and their initials are the TCB, which is Elvis's motto, the TCB. You know.
Taking care of business. And when Trump was born, it was June 14th, 1946, and it was on a blood moon. And that would have correlated with the timing of the Babylon working, which some suggest relates to Trump, and I would kind of agree with that for a few reasons. But the long and short of it is the Babylon working was a satanic ritual done by NASA people, early days, and it was to summon the Antichrist. And it was specifically called a moonchild, where you bring the spirit into an existing baby that's gestating. Well, Trump was in the womb when they did these rituals, so if anybody received the Antichrist spirit from that ritual, I would say Trump got it during that blood moon. It makes sense anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, but make sure when you say blood moon, you say eclipse too.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right, that's right.
Yeah, it was the blood moon eclipse, not just the blood moon. But yeah, and also that the day he's born is Flag Day and World Blood Donor Day.
World Blood Donor Day and Flag Day. Okay, that's even more interesting because he's very much his world stage persona, this character. I mean, you cannot disassociate him from blood. I mean, he's the salesman of the blood additive that we're all such great fans of. But this entire story is intriguing from the very beginning, especially if you do look at Trump as this. And someone in the chat is asking, so let me get this straight. Elvis is alive. Could you briefly explain your because I explain it here my way, but you have a better way of explaining how Elvis
No,
is the
no.
image?
Yeah, see, Elvis doesn't have to be. No, Elvis is going to be the mark of the beast, but what is it going to look like? It's either going to be his name, the number of his name, or his image. So his name is the number of his name or his image, or all three. But he doesn't have to be here for it. Elvis is not coming back to life, no. But Trump, that's what Trump is here for, the worship of the image of the beast. Trump is the image of the beast, who is Elvis. That's what he is. He is as soon as Elvis left the building, Trump entered. Because nobody had heard about Trump before Elvis's death,
Now, you brought up Kamala and the Space Needle. Was there something else there that you were going to talk about between her and connections to this Space Needle?
Um, not that I can remember. So if you have something else,
Um,
I know there was something else I was going to talk about, but go ahead. I don't remember now.
yeah, we may get back to it, but okay. So Elvis sold us, or sold the world, or seduced the world with the image of the beast, the image of the fallen angel, and he was openly worshipped. The rock star is like a living idol. Like this is idolatry. I mean, they designed it. The whole culture of worshiping rock stars has always, I think, been this pagan church. And you can look at so many different of these so many different icons they put out there who embody these archetypes. You look at the Magdalene, Whore of Babylon, goddess stuff. It seems like every one of these pop stars at some point is used to embody that. And so when you say Elvis is the image of the beast, yeah, it's very consistent with what we see. And not a coincidence that Rihanna comes down in red with the stars behind her with her pregnant belly, and then she has the dancers in white. Or then the next year it's Alicia Keys in red, and then she's dancing with Usher, who's got the phoenix on him, and he's in white. When you decode these rituals, you can see that, yeah, these are not just pop stars. Elvis Presley was a carrier of specific propaganda messaging, and a lot of it is indeed leading to this adulation of the beast. I think you're right on target with your interpretation here. And Trump is the one who's the physical representative of him, of this spirit, or of this. And one more thing here. After he was shot, he was surrounded by 6 Secret Service, and they were all marching together in a group around him, and his head was sticking up above the rest. And one of our members of Gilded had pointed out that it looked like the traditional image of the beast with 6 heads or 7 heads, and one of the heads is wounded. And so you do see, like, here's the image of the beast with 6 heads, and one of them's Trump. If you look at the Trump after the shooting with the security guards around him, he's being marched along, and it's like a 6-headed beast or 7-headed beast, and one of them's bloodied. Let me see if I can pull that up. Here we go.
No, that's a great point. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and when they're all walking together, you could see that looks like a 7-headed beast, and one of the heads is bleeding. Like it's very much Revelation 13 material here. And then he says, "Fight, fight, fight." I mean, some of this stuff's like obviously predictive programming. Like right behind him, the signs all say "You're fired." Like fire, like a firing squad. But let's see. Oh yeah, what do you make of the? Let's see if I can pull this up here. Kind of lost my train of thought. I'm looking at these images of these other shooting victims, or the supposed victims, which I'm kind of looking into these other characters as well, because I think like the other guy, the fireman, and another, um, all would have necessarily been in on it, but I'm trying to see if there's anything else about their names or anything. Have you found anything else regarding the shooting event to be of interest?
Well, I mean, other than the CC on the guy, the fireman, I don't. You were just talking about fire. There's your fireman connection.
Now, fight, fight, fight. Any meaning there other than just the obvious 666, the FFF?
Well, the fight, fight, fight is connected to Gabby Gifford, the head wound, which I mentioned. That was her slogan after
Was
she
it?
got her head wound.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Gabby Giffords. Let me pull that up. Are you kidding me?
Uh-uh.
Okay,
I already talked about that. Yeah.
okay, I missed that. Okay, so Gabby Gifford's slogan, the fight, 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 for gun control. And, okay, again, her head wound, Elvis's birthday, and then she's got the
And
connections
the
with
beast quake. And the beast quake was that day, because the beast quake connects to the head wound also, because, I mean, the Washington State event connects to a head wound because Elvis's head is the furthest west of Washington. And, if you want to show the people, it's up to you. But
Gabby
that part of
Gabby Giffords, another GG, married to someone who almost became a contender for vice president, Mark Kelly. But yeah, that's the guy, the astronaut.
and he was a twin. See, and Elvis was a twin.
Yeah, and I'll pull this up as well. I'll pull up the state of Washington because once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's like Johnny Bravo or Elvis Presley. It's obviously Presley's profile, which is an intriguing addition to everything else that we've been looking at here. But here you have.
And look at that mark. And look at that mark on his head. It looks like it's a head wound on the Elvis head part.
The Olympic National Park. Yeah. Looking out to the west. Fascinating, as always, fascinating material. This thing here, though, really struck me as highly significant. The fact that Gerald Ford predicts the conditions under which we would get the first female president, and then here we go. And what was the other connection here? It was the October 20th connection here is President Hoover's death, Kamala
Well, no, the
Harris's birth.
connection. Yeah, but you're forgetting the first part that Gerald Ford did it at the Herbert Hoover
Yeah,
Library or
that's right.
something like
Yes.
that.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah,
Herbert
yeah,
Hoover Library. Herbert Hoover dies, and then on that day, Kamala is born. And that's where he
right.
said that the next president is going to be a female ushered in from the vice presidency because of the death of her predecessor. That is a very specific prophecy, and the dates are too perfect, and of course, the location. And one more thing, the day Trump was shot, you get that trailer coming out for the new Marvel movie, Captain America, and it's in a theater, and it's Harrison Ford who is being shot at, and it's just like the Trump event. It's predicted programming. He survives a sniper attack. It's the president being shot at, but the timing of it is intriguing for a few reasons. But it's Harrison Ford in a theater, which has a relation to Abe Lincoln, shot in Ford Theater. But what's more, Harrison Ford's birthday, 7/13, which is the day of the shooting, and Julius Caesar's birthday, and Donald Trump was portrayed as Julius Caesar in Central Park when they killed him in that Shakespeare play. So a lot of 7/13 alignments there, but I'm just pointing it out here that the Ford name is very interesting here as well.
Yeah, I have some connection to. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I was about to give it away. No, I'll just wait because it's too hard to explain. I was just about to say it. No, don't worry about it. But go ahead. Is there any? What I wanted to say was that notice that they were there wasn't no big events. Oh, but you know what happened today? There was that. Did you hear about the Russian earthquake today? 7.0.
No, I didn't catch that one.
Yeah, there was a 7.0 earthquake near Russia today, or something like that. So. Um, I don't know if there's any damage or anything, but it was like 50 miles from Russia or something. But so there was not any really big predictive programming events that happened uh, over the near Elvis's death date, 47-year death anniversary, which just was yesterday. But I told you that is the 47 is what they were waiting for. So, and you'll see in my future videos, it's all about, the real main thing is it's all about the reset, because Elvis equals water, Elvis equals reset, and that's what's about to happen. It's the final year for the reset in 2025. But so there wasn't really that much predictive programming, but there was a few things that happened. I don't know if you want to just go through a couple of things
Yeah,
here
yeah, by all means,
about what.
because this is the 47th presidency, and I believe that this is also foreshadowed in Super Bowl 47, which was the one that had the blackout for 33 minutes. So the Blackout Bowl 47 has a lot of significance because of who was there. You got Beyonce, Colin Kaepernick as quarterback, and he later became famous for the kneeling during the national anthem. And in this last year, the national anthem was brought up because you had Francis Scott Key Bridge taken down. So this 47, I think this is the key. This number is very significant here because, of course, we
Yeah,
are.
and that's a great point. I'll tell you why. Because it's signifying 47 and 48. And what do I mean by that? Because I told you that Seattle Slew just did its 47-year anniversary for winning the Triple Crown on June 11th. It just went, but we were waiting for Elvis to turn 47 years dead. See, now it's 47, 48. So you had the blackout in 47, and guess who won? Because next year Seattle Slew turns 48 years after his Triple Crown win. And guess who won the 48 Super Bowl?
Who?
Seattle.
Okay.
Okay. So that connects to what's happening next year when he turns 48 years from his Triple Crown win. And what's important about that is that oh my goodness, my train of thought. Oh, the Vince Lombardi Trophy is the Super Bowl trophy is the June 11th because he was born on June 11th, Vince Lombardi.
Right. Okay. And again, Travis Kelce, Elvis Presley, kind of a phonetic resemblance there. And he sings Viva Las Vegas badly holding that trophy. And it reminds me that Fallout, the Nuke series, ends, the season I just watched, the first season, it ends with Las Vegas, but it has a Space Needle in the picture. So, like, even though Vegas is toasted, you see this big Space Needle standing up there. So it kind of combines the Seattle and Vegas thing. And Westworld did this as well. I'm not sure what it all means. And I also pointed out that the Antichrist superstar Marilyn Manson put out the single with a big shard of glass with his one eye in it, and it looks just like Nevada. And he's on Nuclear Blast Records because the previous label dropped him. So I have seen a lot of nuke stuff, foreshadowing stuff, but highlighting Vegas for some reason. Not that I think that's going to go down there, but I'm just saying.
Well, Vegas is well, no, the reason that Vegas is so important to this puzzle because it's Sin City and it's in the 36th state. And wasn't Herbert Hoover the president after Kennedy?
Let me check. I think it was. I think it
No,
was
that was
LBJ.
Lyndon B. Johnson. No, that was LBJ. So what president was Hoover?
Let me take a look.
He was. I don't understand. I'm confused.
31st.
I know
31st.
31st. Okay.
From 29 to 33. And,
yeah. Lyndon B. Johnson was the 36th. Yeah.
And hey, one more thing here. This 4-8 thing is big. You know, like we're consistently noticing this 4-8, 8-4, but there are two different mainstream popular shows right now that just happen to have season 4, episode 8 about a Trump guy getting shot. Or Trump, like we had Assassination Run for The Boys, season 4, episode 8, with a guy that resembles Trump. He doesn't get shot, but he's part of this. He's in the scene where this assassination thing takes place, and he gets blood on his face, and it looks like Trump with blood on his face. The Homelander, he's Trump. But 4-8, season finale. They changed the title Assassination Run after the Trump event because it was so close. But then Stranger Things, season 4, episode 8, has this character that gets shot, at the end of this thing, and it's Matthew Modine. Matthew Modine plays Joker in Full Metal Jacket, and if you look at the subtext of Full Metal Jacket, Joker is JFK. That's why he's got the target painted on the side of his head, and that was my clue that Trump was going to get hit on the right side of the head, where the 47 is on his head, the 45, 47. I said this is a clue that this is the same setup, and it's foreshadowed in Full Metal Jacket, but the same actor. So anyway, two major shows, 4-8, Trump gets killed.
And you were mentioning Marilyn Manson. You know, anytime you hear the name Marilyn, you think of Marilyn Monroe, and she died on August 4th,
Yeah. I remember you brought that up, and she, of course, is connected to a Kennedy. And in fact, there's that song "Who Killed Marilyn," where the lyrics say, "5:25, August 5th, 1962, found her on her chest, face all turning blue." And so I kind of knew that she died, or she was found on the 5th. I didn't consider that. Yeah, August 4th, another strong connection here.
Yeah. So anyway, but just real quick, what happened in the last few days around Elvis's death anniversary? Just let me shoot through it real quick. So you had, they've been showing that people were trying to steal Graceland. This story's been out for a few months, but why? Do you really believe that anyone is stupid enough to try to steal Graceland? You know what I mean? Like, no, do you really believe anyone would even think about doing something like that? Because they know they would get caught, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why it's a fake story. It's impossible for anyone to think that they could do that and get away with it. And so they had an arrest. They finally made an arrest, supposedly, or charged the person, whatever the hell. So that came up just yesterday.
Just yesterday, I see it. Woman charged in scheme to steal Graceland. And this is fascinating considering Trump's whole narrative about the stolen White House. Fascinating.
Exactly, because Graceland looks like the White House. You got it. And also, so that was in the news for a few days. And then you had some plane crash of a race car driver who had the number 18 because Elvis was born on 1/8, and he died on 8/16 in Tennessee. A plane crash where Elvis died in Tennessee. Um, then you had where is it? Oh, you had they brought up both actors who had connections to Elvis, which I told you about, Johnny Wachter and Matthew Perry, and both of them had arrests on the same day. You know why? You know how did they get both events and the people that get caught on the same day? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, yeah.
The news broke, and Matthew Perry was connected big time to the water event in Seattle.
Now, okay, now,
Yeah, go ahead.
now speaking of water event, because there's this connection that has been made before that the Titanic represents the West, too big to fail, hubris, guided by greed, whatever it is, it sinks, and the West is about to be hit by climate change, which is the symbol. The iceberg symbolizes that. Then you have the movie Don't Look Up, where the Earth is about to get hit by this comet. But this is this theme of the West sinking. And it gets really interesting because, of course, 9/11, Twin Towers go down, but down below at the site of the Titanic wreckage, you had James Cameron filming Ghosts in the Abyss. So you have this connection between James Cameron and 9/11 on the day, but he also filmed Titanic, which had predictive programming for 9/11. Titanic splits, jumpers, and all. So it has predictive programming in that and also in Terminator 2. My point being, the movie Titanic is associated with 9/11 in a few different ways. And just last week, Donald Trump played the theme song for the Titanic at one of his rallies. And Celine Dion ripped on him for it. My heart will go on. They made fun of him
Right.
for it, but I'm thinking, it says here, she does not endorse Trump's use of the Titanic song. But Trump using the Titanic song sounds like a bad choice because it's a disaster. But to me, it sounds like a bigger picture because the abyss is referenced in Revelation 9:11. The king over the abyss, Abaddon, Apollyon, the destroyer, or the Terminator. It's a reference to Trump, a bad dawn. And of course, the Deep Sea Challenger is the name of the submersible that James Cameron took. And of course, the Challenger, the destroyer in the abyss, I think is a reference ultimately to the nuke. And it's tied to Trump. So for Trump to have the Titanic theme song playing at his event, it brings it out there into the world stage. So I'm just pointing it
Yeah,
out. This could be some significant predictive programming.
yeah, absolutely. There's going to be some type of water event on this June 11th after the initial event. So, like I said, there could be back-to-back catastrophic events, but whatever triggers it, which is what I'm thinking, which is going to be this supposed nuke, But because because I don't believe in nukes either, so I believe they can just plant explosives everywhere. But just real quick, so when 9/11 happened, you also had the Timothy McVeigh who was executed on 6/11 on that same year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. 33 years old. These things are super connected. I mean, it's an elaborate story, but we can find the structure of it here, the directorship, and the code here has been 611, and the nuking coming. And my point of view of it is that the nuke is going to come from the right wing domestic violent terrorists. I've always said this, but now that's even more clear that that is the threat they're hyping up.
Because he was charged with bombing, right? What's his name? Timothy McVeigh.
Yep, he did the. There's so
Yeah,
many ridiculous 33s around this stuff, but yeah, he
yeah,
bombed
and
Oklahoma City bombing in response to Dave Koresh, 33, being incinerated.
oh, and by the way, that Terminator you mentioned, the computer that went live, it went live on August 4th. The Terminator thing. I forgot. Remember that there was a computer that went live or something. I
Sky, yeah,
forgot
oh
what the
yeah,
name is. Skynet.
Skynet.
It went live on August 4th, I think.
Now, here's one other thing. I mentioned that there's a connection between James Cameron filming Ghost in the Abyss and Revelation 9/11, and that the name Apollyon in you have Apollyon, Abaddon, and I think also you have all these different names for the destroyer, or one of them is the Terminator. Napoleon or Apollyon could be the ex-Terminator. So the Terminator is strongly correlated with this. And on 9/11, looking over the destruction happened to be the billboard with Arnold Schwarzenegger's face from a movie called Collateral Damage. And there's even a famous video of a plane of one of the explosions on 8:46 a.m. on 9/11, and you have Arnie looking over the whole scene. But I'm bringing this up because there's another Terminator movie called Revelation 9, Terminator Dark Fate. So I'm saying this Revelation 9, Rev 9 is an advanced Terminator, is a reference to Revelations 9/11. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, all interrelated here.
Anyway, let me just finish this one. That way I can let you go. Because besides that, a couple things that I mentioned happened the last couple of days. There was also a rapper who died, who goes by the name of Beat King, Beat King. So you have the King reference, and his name was. I mean, he's. Other thing is Club Godzilla. I don't know. Is he from Tennessee? I'm not sure that one.
It says Houston. It says Houston native.
Houston. Yeah. But his name was King. That was interesting that he died the day before August 16th.
Club Godzilla. Club Godzilla.
Yeah, but he was known as Beat King, right?
Yes.
Rapper Beat King. Yeah.
Beat King. I see that. Like Beatles is a play on the word beat. You know, not the bug, but like beat. And you have the anagram with L Beast.
Yeah.
There may be something here, but the Godzilla thing stands out for sure, because Godzilla was designed, or rather created, as a metaphor for the atom bomb, the beast from the sea.
And one last thing. So there was a big hubbaloo. I can't even say it. There was a big deal made about Trump mentioning that the Presidential Medal of Freedom Award is a bigger deal than getting the Congressional Medal of Honor as a veteran or something. So there was that big thing that happened yesterday. And why am I bringing that up? Because Trump had mentioned that, right? That, and the people were getting on him about that yesterday. And the reason I mentioned that is because he was mentioning giving some woman, Miriam Adelson, who was married to Sheldon Adelson, and that was what he was referencing, that particular moment about her getting the award was a bigger deal than a Medal of Honor from a Congressional Medal of Honor. So when he gave the Presidential Medal of Freedom Award to her, that was what he was referencing, and that creature is married to Sheldon Adelson, who is born on August 4th. Sheldon Adelson is. And what really is important is that was the day when he gave Elvis the Presidential Medal of Freedom, that same day. See? So there was a reference. That was the reference. And yesterday was Elvis' death day anniversary. So that was the reference to getting a medal. You know what I mean? Like some kind of Medal of Honor.
Yeah, I heard that
yeah.
hullabaloo yesterday, and I was like, "What's up with this?" And so now it's making some sense here. And this is staggering. The 8-4 thing again. You bring it up because you're the one who informed me that when James or John Hinckley Jr. shot James Brady, James Brady's death occurred 33 years later. It's called a homicide, but he died on 8-4, which is just and I didn't know this. Wait, 8-4, 2014. Unbelievable coincidences.
And make sure you mention he got the head wound. You got to mention that.
Yeah, it was okay. So you have the head wound, 8-4 connection with a guy who was shot next to Reagan. Direct connection as a 330, and 33 years later, 100% direct connection. And then I just mentioned 2 movies that predicted the Trump head wound, and both of them have the code 48 in the season and the episode number. And then one of them has an actor who plays a predictive programming role in Full Metal Jacket as JFK. I mean, this is very solid. This 8-4, 4-8 stuff, undeniable.
Yeah, and just this last thing before I end this, I know that, listen, if people think that it's all about numbers, it's not. People think that I'm just giving them. No, they're doing real life rituals. Okay? You can't tell me that June 11th Seattle still winning the Triple Crown the same year Elvis died is some kind of coincidence. No, okay? And Seattle being in King County and Elvis being known as the king, horse racing being known as the sport of kings, and Martin Luther King dying in Memphis, Tennessee, where Elvis lived and died, and now Seattle's named, and Seattle's King County is named after Martin Luther King's King County. See, these aren't just numbers that I'm spouting out.
No,
This
this
is,
is this is
yeah,
encipher. This is a it's you're deciphering, and
yeah,
if you don't see this, it's because you don't know what media is or how big of a liar it is, and you're naive at this point. I mean, I understand people don't
but
have it; it's not their
but
interest, but it's there.
yeah, yeah, and the reason I'm bringing that up because I'm just going to say this one number connection. That way you can understand. And I know you don't. You can attribute it to whatever you want. I That's on you guys. You know me. I allow you guys to do whatever you want to talk about. It doesn't bother me. But I'm telling you that it's from the Holy Spirit. You can say it's just pure coincidence, luck, whatever you guys want to call it. So think about what I'm about to tell you. If the name Satan equals 55, you just add up the letters Satan, what it is in the alphabet, it equals 55. Okay, so just ask yourself. My two predictions are June 11th and August 4th. So what would Satan need to get to the 666? Because that's what he needs, is 666, Satan. So Satan equals 55. What does he need to get to 666? He needs 611. So 611 plus 55 equals 666. So that's my first prediction. So it's 611 plus 55 is 666. I didn't know that when I made these predictions. Then how many days are in between my two predictions, between 611 and August 4th? It's 55 days. When you add the day between 611 and 8/4, it's 55 days. So that means that 611 to 8/4 is the 666. Okay?
Okay, let me add on to this. 8/4 is the 216th day of the year, which is six
And
times
it's
six times
6 times
six.
6.
It's six cubed.
Exactly. See,
And then yep,
that's what I'm talking
and
about.
then you have this other connection. So there's a direct connection here you're making between the nuke and the head wound. Like these things are paired. And there's this big story right now in the Washington Examiner that says that the most significant 42 miles in American politics is the stretch of land between Butler, Pennsylvania, and East Palestine, Ohio. Well, what characterizes these two places? Head wound and mushroom cloud. Because East Palestine is where you have the train derailment and that big mushroom cloud, which was predicted in a Netflix movie. So there's
Yeah,
another just straight up correlation made by them, intentionally putting it out there. Head wound, mushroom cloud. Direct correlation. They're paired.
yeah. Yeah. Now I was going to end it with that, but since you mentioned one more number thing, let me just say this, okay? There's going to be now. Make sure you don't let me say another thing, okay? Make sure you say, okay, thank you, and hang up on me. Listen, I created this month chart, okay, where if you just take a certain point, okay, just whatever you want, whenever you want to start. So if June is the 6th month, right, and it's the first time you see June would be the 6th month, then the next time June comes around, instead of going back and saying the 6th month, you would say it was the 18th month because it's 12 months later. So if you kept on going 6, 18, 30, 42, 54, 66, and just keep going 12 months every time, okay? And
Yeah, go on.
do
Go.
you
Yeah,
know that
yeah. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Go on. So your starting point is June
so
6th, and so every
yeah, so the
subsequent
first
June you
time you
add
see
12.
June, right? So the first time you see June, that's the 6th. Number 1 is 6. Then if you go down 56 numbers, you get to 666. Okay, so 56 numbers down, you get 666, which is the 666th month it would be. But from the first one, I'm talking about in a way. But let me just say what I mean. So if you were to add up all those numbers that I just said, 6, 12, 8, I mean 6, 18, 30, 42, all the way down to 666, uh, uh, it would equal Elvis's death date, I mean his birth date and his death date. So it ends at 666 June on the 666th month, 18816 it adds up to. If you add up all the 12 months from up to 666. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I get
It's
what
so
you're saying.
confusing.
No, no. It's actually not confusing once you follow through with the pattern here, and it's at this point this is a deeper level of patterning, and the thing you're finding is you find something and you look back and it correlates. Kind of like I see Robert De Niro mouthing off outside the courthouse, and I'm like, this has got to have some significance. And then we find out, yeah, he had his headshot in Joker, and he was in the movie that inspired Joker, where he was the assassin. And as that role, he inspired Hinckley to shoot James Brady and Ronald Reagan. So we have these direct connections between everything we talked about and that. But I wouldn't have known that De Niro was conveying significant messaging if I hadn't looked into it. So then I look deeper and I find the Machete movie, where he plays a racist senator who gets shot at while he's at the podium when he's mouthing off about illegal immigrants, which is exactly what Trump was doing when he was shot at. And that was one of the reasons why he was shot at. The shooter was mad about the immigration policy. But the predictive programming model shows that this is standard operating procedure, and you can look back and find it. And this is not cherry picking. It's way too specific.
All right, man. I'm just gonna let you go, but just to anyone who didn't understand what I said about that one through, the 666 thing, what I just mentioned just now, you got to watch it in my videos, or just ask me and I'll show it to you in the live stream chat if you come into the chat. But anyway, man, I appreciate you giving me the chance to talk, and I hope everyone wakes up before it's too late, man. Anyway, man.
Well, hey, you've been on the phone for 47 minutes exactly.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Perfect timing. Great.
Well, have a great day. Thanks for the call. Thanks for the info, and we'll see you in your chat. Now, Lynn brought up Texas sharpshooter fallacy, and no, there's a big difference here. Texas sharpshooter fallacy doesn't make specific predictions first. It takes all its shots, it has all of its predictions, and then it draws a target after the fact. We can prove stuff. So until you can explain this away, you're on the wrong side of the screen. Explain this. Colin Rugg, just in. Trump confirms a chunk of his ear is gone. More details emerge in the New York Post. Before that happened, we had posted this image repeatedly from The Atlantic that appears to show Trump with blood running down his head. And it's created by the red curtain and the silhouettes of the Supreme Court justices. And you can specifically see blood running down his face. So we said this is predictive programming. The Atlantic previously had made a reference to the number 47 and a bullet hole and Trump. Well, if you look closer, it specifically tags the part where his ear was hit. So if you're going to call that a coincidence, you live in their movie. You are in the box. If you can't tell that this is predictive programming and the event was fake and that all the news is rigged this way, then you are in their box. So no, we are right about this. And you can make an argument for Texas sharpshooter fallacy when it comes to geometria calculators and non-specific claims, but no, this is very specific, down to the very part of the head where he was shot. And this is not retrospect. We do call stuff in advance. And again, the reason I brought up De Niro is that machete roll was not only just like what happened to Trump, but it was the same conversation, talking about illegal immigrants. And not only that, but this was De Niro in 2010, before Trump got into politics. And again, De Niro played Travis Bickle, the assassin. He played Franklin Murray gets shot in the head by Joker, who was inspired by Travis Bickle. This is way too layered, so you can't just hand wave it away. What I can hand wave away is your claim that these are mere coincidences. Like, we're way past that. Constant Elevation says, at 7 minutes and 20 seconds, Homelander's watching Taxi Driver. Now that's even more specific. We have the facts on our side, not faith in media. Oh no, I faithfully trust that the media is conveying the truth. It's just people with cameras and microphones. Nope, doesn't work that way. Go chase your second shooters. Go run circles around fake trees and miss the fake forest. I'll be on the outside. I'll be here with my chainsaw, clear cutting this forest of misinformation. Okay, let's continue. Jessica Lynn says he was in Deer Hunter. The shooting happened right before the RNC happened, where the Milwaukee Bucks play. See, that's really good too. And another thing too, if you look at the movie Deer Hunter with De Niro, he has that gun to his head. You constantly see the gun to the head thing. There's a number of images and posters where, look, the deer hunter, gun to the head. Okay? Now, let's look at Travis Bickle. And the iconic image of Travis Bickle in the movie Taxi Driver, he has a gun to his head. Reoccurring theme here. Gun to the head, gun to the head. And this is the guy who inspired Joker. And so Joker, and again, this is basically a template for Joker. This character inspired Hinckley to shoot Brady and Reagan. Brady, again, dies on 8/4, 33 years later. Now, moving forward, in the Joker movie, Joker shoots Murray Franklin. And specifically, the name Frank is splattered in blood. That has a great deal of significance when you look at Frank the Bunny in Donnie Darko with the hole in his head. But I would not have found a 2010 movie. I wouldn't have looked at Taxi Driver. I wouldn't have seen this predictive programming or known it was relevant if Robert De Niro had not shown up in front of the Trump trial. And I'd said, there's no way this is not connected to Joker or Batman, because every single court trial has some correlation. Like when he was arraigned, 4/4/2023, they're filming Joker 2 outside. On Heath Ledger's 44th birthday. Posthumous, but 4/4, 44th birthday, Joker 2. The new Joker, this guy, named Phoenix, highly significant. And so for Robert De Niro to be outside of that courthouse making noise, and the things he said were all coded. It's all coded. We've decoded it. But here he is with a hole in his head. So he plays both roles, the assassin and the assassinated who gets shot on television, which is also a significant part of it because Trump was shot in front of the world on TV. Oh, today is Robert De Niro's 80th birthday. Interesting. So what we have found here, what we have established here, what we know, is that the worldview is a model. And this model has a narrative structure that we call history and news. News is just the up-to-date history. And the power elite write your history. Is that hard to believe? And you don't write the history by messing with the history books after they've been published. They write it real time. And they write it real time, rather they act out history on the news. But this is stuff that's prefabricated, pre-scripted. And one of the key points here that proves that we're right, and this isn't just coincidence, and it's not the demiurge or a higher power writing the news, is that Robert De Niro was playing a role representing Trump before Trump was even in the role that he was predicted to be in. We're looking at the infrastructure, the architecture of the world stage model, because it's false, it's wrong, it's distorted. It's an augmented reality, and it's not fully based on reality. And this is why we are doing AutoHoaxCon. We're going to bring out front and center that this is the cutting edge of what used to be, quote, conspiracy theory. This is the cutting edge. Cutting fringe, I should say. We're not chasing chemtrails. We're not mad at fake fears and fake issues here. Jurassic Liars, Elvis Seattle 611, Trump 84 Ohio says, tell Tim that today, August 17th, is August 4th on the Julian calendar, which would again connect to Robert De Niro. See, that's good. That's really good there as well. And of course, the Julian calendar, we can go into that, but the Julius Caesar Trump stuff is intriguing as well. Again, just to reiterate, Trump shot 7/13. 7/13 is Julius Caesar's birthday. Trump was killed as Julius Caesar in Shakespeare in the Park in 2016. Harrison Ford, born 7/13, is in the new Captain America movie, and the trailer that came out as Trump was shot has him as president in a theater being shot at while he's at the podium. Slick Rick 333 said OJ didn't do it. Neither did Lee Harvey Oswald. Stanley Kubrick shot JFK. Wasn't Oswald. And it wasn't Zapruder. It was a Stanley Kubrick production. OJ didn't do it. No, the mass media did it. You know, people who are still mad about 9/11, it's like, oh, we got to get the culprits. It's not a whodunit. It's a what is it? It's a movie. The scapegoat is a prop. It's like kind of like the first caller. He said these leaked documents are props, and it misleads truthers into believing that they have some kind of an insight, and it leads them astray. Oh, nice. Reverse History just signed up for AutoHoax Con #1. Again, 9/28/2024, AutoHoax Con. You don't want to miss it. It will be a live streamed event. I'm going to have it professionally recorded by our cinematographer, and more details to come, but it'll be the first of many, and it's not going to be annual. Things move way too fast on the world stage to do annual conventions of anything. So the first one, depending on how good it goes, we'll move to the next one. I had already planned on kicking off something of a book tour to promote Autohoaxology 101. That was already in my plan. So this is just that, but rebranded as AutoHoaxCon. Messianic Charlatan says Levi's gene anagram of Elvis may suggest pop stars are the new priest class, since the tribe of Levi were in the priest tribe of biblical Israel. Yeah, that's really interesting too. You look at the Levi logo, and you have one, the upside down crown. You got Elvis. Connotation to me is like Lucifer's crown. Have you read that? I think was it in John Milton's work Paradise Lost, where they said Lucifer's crown was made from his crown. No, there's a jewel from his crown. I think it was an emerald in the story that fell off of his crown when he hit the ground, and out of that jewel they created the Holy Grail. Here we go. The Holy Grail is said to have been used by Jesus at the Last Supper. Let's see if I can find it. There's some kind of connection here. Here we go. The stone was a jewel that dropped from Lucifer's crown when he rebelled against God. I'll dig into this lore because there's some kind of story here, but the upside down crown has some connotation with the with falling, I think, and the R, of course, is the 18th letter. JL points out January 8th. Elvis's and Bowie's birthday. See, what we're drawing from here is what they're drawing from. They're referencing myths, archetypes, and this is not something that we just made up or that we're cherry picking. It's not a coincidence that that NOAA, National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, sounds like Noah. Well, what is the symbol of Noah in the Bible, who warns us of the flood? Well, a couple of things you would associate with him: the angel that warns him, the ark, and the dove. Well, what is the symbol of Noah that warns us of the climate change flood? The dove. And they have their ark storm concept, and they have their satellite. They have their satellite that's warning them of the flood because of our sin, which today has been redefined as our carbon footprint. So we're seeing the repackaging. This is actually called syncretism. This is syncretism. Same thing with the space program. Space is a new iteration of an archaic concept, heaven. And it's a heaven that all of the different religions, including atheism, which isn't really atheism, because the atheists buy and believe in every single God construct created by state media. But space is a heaven that all the different religions that fight over paradise and heaven, that they all agree on. Catholic, Jew, Mormon, Muslim, Scientologist, atheist, you're all going to space. You all agree on that. You can fight over your local concepts of heaven, but as long as everyone bows to the flaming obelisk that flies into the heavens, everybody's good. We're all uniform. Okay, continuing. Howard Boyd. Shalom, my brother Timmy. Amen, amen. Thanks for joining. Okay, let's continue. I've got so many tabs open, I want to just review them. So yes, Trump was born on a lunar eclipse / blood moon, and that's when the spirit of the Antichrist, invoked by Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, and High Priestess, Whore of Babylon stand-in Marjorie Cameron, invoked the Antichrist, which took possession of him in some interpretations. Now this is a new one to me, and this one's big. The fact that Gabby Giffords had the slogan "Fight, fight, fight" after her head wound, and being shot on Elvis's birthday, this is all, if you ask me, this is just reiterating everything that was just said, because of course Trump gets shot in the head and says, "Fight, fight, fight." And that was a 2011 shooting in Tucson. Again, I'm just catching up on my tabs. Yeah, the west side of Washington looks like Elvis's face looking over the ocean. Can't unsee it. Woman charged in scheme to steal Graceland. Again, the stealing of the White House. A woman stealing the White House. Graceland. There's some kind of story here. And predictive programming in Fallout has a scene where Betty Pearson, again BP-216, conducts a coup and steals Vault 33. And after they wipe out, they wipe out who's there and they clean up the evidence, there's one spot of blood left, and it's on the side of the head of a foosball player, a little character, and it looks just like Trump. So based on that, I said, Trump's going to get his head wound on the right side of his head, and then Harris is going to somehow be in the picture and be part of it, and will follow. And as we've seen, since, Trump has his head wound, and Biden steps down. Beat King dies. He had Club Godzilla. Now, this is Godzilla again is a nuke reference. The Olympics opened with Gojira playing a French Revolution song, and Gojira is Godzilla. It ends with a band called Phoenix. Now, I don't know how significant this is, but Antichrist Marilyn Manson, a lot of code here, happens to be 55 right now, and he's having some kind of a rebirth, a resurrection in his career. And of course, his new single had that shard of glass that looked like Nevada. Okay, again, just closing up my notes. Travis Bickle, Deer Hunter connections. Robert De Niro being born today, which Julian calendar means August 4th. And the head to the temple. This is significant considering that this character, De Niro, as Travis Bickle, pointing the gun to his head, that this character inspired the guy that shot James Brady in the head, who died 33 years later on 8/4. Then I mentioned, here's Deer Hunter, gun to head. Here's Frank Murrah, again, De Niro, shot in the head by Joker, who's basically Travis Bickle. So he plays both roles, goes full circle. We talked about Gerald Ford's prediction that the next president would be a female president. I'm sorry, the next female president, or the first female president, would be one who would be initiated, or inaugurated rather, by the death of, and that hasn't happened yet, but we're pretty close. Let me go ahead and play this clip, because now it takes place in the Hoover Library, and that's why we were suggesting, or Jessica Lynn suggested, Hoover Library. President Hoover dies on the day that Kamala Harris is born. So this is all very succinct. I'll see if I can get right to that part. Here it is.
Well, I hope we do have a young lady at some point become President of the United States. I can tell you how I think it will happen, because it won't happen in the normal course of events. Either the Republican or Democrat political party will nominate a man for president and a woman for vice president. And the woman and man will win. So you'll end up with a president, a male, and a vice president, a female. And in that term of office of the president will die. And the woman will become president under the law or Constitution. And once that barrier is broken, from then on, men better be careful, because they'll have a hard time ever even getting a nomination in the future. But
now that I hadn't heard yet. Now let me bring this up. There's an Economist cover called "The Weaker Sex," and it came out in 2015. So this is before Trump comes out with the MAGA hat and becomes the figurehead that he became. But this is again 2015, the weaker sex, The Economist. And what do you see here? A couple of things. One, and this is pre-Q. You see a man in a MAGA hat, a red hat, inside of a male symbol, which is pointed down. So the weaker sex. No jobs, no family, no prospects. But now looking at it from 2024, that's a MAGA hat. And that is not a male symbol. That is Q. And it's breaking, or it's a broken. It's cracked. But this is a prediction for Q and MAGA and Trump and what Gerald Ford is talking about, the advent of the first female president and what that may mean for the future. Highly predictive. Yet, if you're not looking at predictive programming, you're not looking at media appropriately. You're on the wrong side of the screen. You don't have the full interpretation. It's like you're sitting at a magic show, politely sitting in your seat, and you're literally believing every trick is magic because you can't figure it out. Meanwhile, we're backstage. We're reading his books. We're learning how they do their tricks. We don't fall for any of it. So if you're still falling for the tricks, and every time you believe a news story because you saw it on the screen, you just fell for a sleight of mind, a magic trick. Again, Kamala born October 20th, 1964. President Hoover, and again, Hoover Library dies October 20th, 1964. Fascinating connections. Infinite Plane Radio 24/7 is back. So after this live stream, it's going to go back to the 24/7, and I'll be going through archives, selectively exhuming whatever is relevant and interesting. And I'll try to keep it new every day. We have the AutoHoaxCon coming, just a heads up. And the IPS has raised the red flag with regard to Goldfinch's surrender here. I put a note up here. George News put out this public statement, which I read earlier. You can find it on my blog, where apparently he's in fear for his life, and he's hoping to do some damage control before he's doxxed, because there's a lot of people who are going to want a piece of that person when the full story is told. Ryler05 says, the MAGA, oh yeah, Ronald Reagan was the first MAGA, it was Make America Great. He lived at 666. Yeah, I remember seeing that somewhere. I'll pull that up if I can. But let me review your comments. I see some other interesting ones in here. Masonic Charlatan says Marilyn Manson has a song called Say 10, which is 2 5s. Oh, okay, I see. 2 5s and 55 connected to Satan. There's a lot of interesting connections with these numbers that are. I mean, look, the numbers, words, symbols, sounds, colors. These are all just part and parcel of how they tell their stories and narratives, and they're communicating to you on multiple levels. The same minds, the same mentality that goes into marketing. Think Edward Bernays, propaganda in the public mind. You think you're not a target of that? Like, I think truthers have a blind spot when they say, we're looking too closely, we're looking at patterns too much. It's like, no, we are revealing the architecture of this stuff, and you haven't figured it out yet. If your perspective doesn't recognize how the news is bent, you're behind the curve here. Obrique says, predictive programming is only meant for eyes to see. Well, it's multi-modalities. You know, there's visual, there's audio. It's in music. You've got to look at music. You hear a lot of predictive programming, and I think we understate the significance of this and the echo chamber effect. It's not just the movies; it's the video games, but music is a huge part of it as well. Oswaldo said, "I heard Jaron cursed out Bro Sanchez and called him a bitch. That's terrible." Well, Bro Sanchez didn't fake an ISS transit, so we know Bro Sanchez doesn't work for NASA. Silent Snoopy says, did anybody hear Jaron's new flat earth model, Home Depot Earth? No, I haven't. I'm not inclined to listen to anybody's model, whether it's flat or round. The only model that I'm concerned with is the worldview, the world stage, the model we've been given. Our consensus agreed upon version of the world that doesn't match up with the real thing in all places. But predictive programming isn't one of these things that's only meant for eyes to see. It's meant for everybody to see, but we're not meant to process it as what it is. It's advertising. You make your decisions because a lot of decisions, purchasing decisions, lifestyle choices, because of what you're advertised with. And sometimes you're coerced because it's a better option. Other times it's conformity. I was sort of noticing this trend where everyone in town is suddenly walking around carrying these uh, metal water jugs instead of plastic water bottles. And I'm like, I'll never do that. I'm not going to be one of these trendies carrying my water around like a big bottle. And now I have one. I wanted one. And I didn't rush out and buy it, but I found one at the top of the mountain at 10,500 feet. And whoever left it there, this must have been a $40 piece. It's a nice aluminum water thermos, but I guess he was halfway back down the mountain, didn't want to come back and get it, so I kept it. But now I'm carrying this thing, and it's convenient. There are convenient refill places at my office, at the gym, and the purpose of stating this is that we are affected by trends, by other people, by changes in society, whether we know it or not, if we go with the flow. And one of the ways they get your consent, your agreement, they get you to go with stuff is they sell it to you. So many people said, I'm not going to carry a flip phone and be tracked. And now these people have their faces buried in their iPhone 24/7. Was that a conscious choice? I'm going to change my life. I'm going to immerse myself in social media and ignore my immediate surroundings. Said nobody. It just happened. And similarly, we're being inundated with messaging, with new ideas, changes that are proposed for society. We're given stereotypes and attitudes all the time. So the idea that we're unaffected is ridiculous. Everyone is programmed, and programming is an ongoing process. Outside of the programmed are the programmers, and the programmers are all programmed, except for the very few at the top who may know, but that's a very small percentage. Most of the entertainers, the people that we see, the writers, the metascripters, they probably don't know the totality of the fakery. There's a handful I can point to that I'm confident do. But what's clear is we, the deprogrammed, know more than the majority of the programmers, and we're certainly more informed than the multitudes of misinformed. This is the place to be. Slick Rick 333 says Jessica has earned Blue Lodge membership. Absolutely. Absolutely. Even the first caller, all the callers have been contributing some incredible information. Constant Elevation at 7 minutes and 20 seconds, Homelander. They're watching Taxi Driver. Unbelievable. What do you call that? It's just so layered. Jessica Lynn is the one who said, here's the Gerald Ford speech that he talks about how we get the first female president, Herbert Hoover Library, and she's born on the day Herbert Hoover died. Ryler says, 15 years ago, people weren't buried in their phones. Yeah, and I can feel it sometimes. I can feel the conditioning. I am being conditioned to hate cards, to hate debit cards, to hate the credit card processors. We have to swipe, insert, swipe, tap, wipe it on your sleeve and make sure that the bar is clean. None of these things function. They're getting worse. It used to be you swipe it and you go. Now it's, oh, you got a chip, you got to use the chip. Oh, it rejected your chip, swipe it. Now it wants your chip. Now it'll take it. You got to nudge it first. It's at this point, I'm ready for a microchip in the palm of my right hand so I can just go scan my groceries without all this crap. And this is how it operates. They wouldn't be able to tell me, hey, can we inject a microchip in your hand to make your life easier? I'd be like, I don't know. I'll go with the wearable first, if that. But now, having experienced all these different cards and how they fall apart, possibly planned obsolescence, I'm ready for the mark in that sense. And obviously I'm being a little facetious, but that's how it works. Okay, I guess I've gone through all of my notes. Again, 24/7 is going to be back on. It's been a long time, too long in fact, and it's appropriate now to have it back on because we've created so much content. There's been just so much material. Really, things have accelerated since the fake Trump event. I'm looking to see if I have anything else important. Here's Laura Ingram in her studio where she has an American flag on the floor that she can walk on.
Cans of soda. But we're very excited. I think we actually have the teleprompter set.
That's only offensive, though, if you kneel on it. You can walk on flags, apparently, but you can't kneel on it because that's offensive. You can wear them, too, which is also against the rules. Here's another video of the JFK guy, Edward X.
Who broke their word. Let her tell the tale.
So they encouraged me to come to the RNC, want to do.
I don't know. JFK in a skin suit, I'm not 100% against it. Such a strange psyop, it really is. T Latte says you won't need the microchip yet. Now they have the right thumbprint option at Whole Foods. Yeah, Whole Foods. I'm never going there again. I took a long walk. I passed by a Whole Foods and I got these white chocolate Oreo cookie covered pretzels. And it gave me the worst stomach pain I've had in my entire life. And I looked it up on Reddit and apparently these things carry salmonella or something. So don't eat the chocolate covered pretzels at Whole Foods. Jessica Lynn says all the Q stuff is 100% fake. Yeah, not only is it fake, but it's intentionally sewn out, like it's real, but it's fake, like the Mandela effect. Like it's not like they're making it up. It's not crowdsourced. This isn't some community-generated fan fiction, although they make that now. But the core doctrines of it, it's a religious cult that was imposed on this group of gullible people. Obreek says, who directed the Trump attempt? Good question. It was certainly written, authored around Kubrick's time. It was planned that far back. But who was actually there directing it? A very good question. Because the Nolans are handling the atom bomb thing. Maybe the guy who directed Joker. He also directed Hangover. Someone had mentioned this director before. Todd Phillips. Maybe he did. And I'm only saying so because in Joker you had the Franklin Murray getting shot, and that's a code for Trump. But yeah, now why was the Q stuff done? The purpose of the Q was to create the domestic equivalent of radical Islam. Instead of being radicalized by Quran verses, it's QAnon verses. Instead of going after the great Satan, they're going after the deep state. These are absolute parallels. The holy warrior suicide bomber has become the incel, shooting up a sorority. Elliot Rodger. The MAGA ban values. You hear people like Fuentes and many others saying, we need to lower the age of consent. And why is that? Well, MAGA ban values, traditional values going away from Hollywood. They always talk about how much they hate Hollywood. Yeah, it's part of this. It's part of the rejection of Western culture, post-feminism, post-civil rights. So they've created this entire construct, and it's a religious cult, it's a doomsday cult, and it's 100% a psyop. Dwayne Bith says the Trump assassination hoax is to retain the normies' interest in the political charade. It's certainly a major plot twist, but it also shows how short the public attention span is. Like if you compare it to the Chris Rock slap, like they should have had Will Smith or something, someone slap Trump. If someone had slapped Trump on the side of his face, you would not hear the end of it. They shoot him on the side of the head, and next week we're talking about something else. P. Trippa says 24/7 or live, both. Both. Although this 24/7 live stream is not going to be on this main channel. It's going to be on the backup channel. And the reason why is I don't know what I said last year or 2 years ago. And I don't want to accidentally get the main channel banned because this is financing a lot of our operations here moving forward. I scheduled AutoHoaxCon for late September, for right after the YouTube payment. So YouTube is going to, well, you are all contributing, all of you members, you're all going to be a part of this AutoHoaxCon, but it's our YouTube paycheck that's financing it. Jessica Lynn says they don't want people to get prepared. Don't worry, the white hats are handling it. I've been told that. It's a cult. I've talked to Jehovah's Witness cult members trying to recruit me who are less emphatic than QAnoners who told me, hey, listen to me. The National Guard is going to round up the deep state under the cover of lockdowns, and they're going to kill them on TV in tribunals, and you just need to stay home and eat your popcorn and let the white hats handle it. I had one early Q proponent telling me, you don't need to do live streams. You don't need to talk about the stuff. Just enjoy the show. Let the white hats handle it. And this was not just one person. There were 3 people in this group before Q was even a thing. In the summer before Q, I had several individuals, all very shady. One of them was in the military. The other 2 were just totally shady. And they kept talking about white hats. He said, you know, Tim, you talk a good game about conspiracies, but it's so negative. You know, it's negative. How about prospiracy? I'm like, what's that? You know, prospiracy. Like maybe the conspiracy's actually the good guys, the white hats behind the scenes that are going to expose it all and wake everybody up. And good news is, you don't have to do anything. I was like, it sounds like you're trying to, I don't know, make me stop what I'm doing. And he's like, well, you're just very courageous and brave to go online and talk about this stuff. I admire your courage. I wouldn't do it, but you be you. Like they were constantly trying to influence me to stop doing this. And then I had people like Flat Earth Dave used to call me after live streams, and he'd be like, hey, don't say nobody died on 9/11. My best friend is a mental patient because she saw so many bodies hitting the ground, and every day she has to go lay on a psychologist's couch. And I saw the 2 planes because I was watching from my house. Like he told me he saw planes hitting the buildings. He told me, don't you dare say Alex Jones is Bill Higgs. I mean, I was targeted for gatekeeping very early on, and I have not complied. Constant Elevation says, hey Tim, what do you think of a bachelorette show where QAnons compete to marry Queen Diddalo? Like, the loser has to marry her? God, what a nightmare that would be. Imagine driving around with her, with Romana Diddalo, who is the QAnon queen, who tells her followers to not pay their bills because Nasara Jasara is coming, which is some
you should never.
Some magical concept about where the government's going to give back all the money they ever took from you and everybody's going to be rich. But if you're not familiar with the Queen, here's a short intro.
5.
I am Her Royal Majesty Queen Romana of the Kingdom of Canada.
A small town held hostage.
She thinks that she has been sent here to save people.
We don't know what they're going to do. They're unpredictable.
She has sent her Q cult members to attack nurses. She's had them go out to make arrests. She thinks they need to go arrest public officials. She's this major league instigator, but she's never been stopped, although one crowd of people did drive her out of town. But I would be interested in watching such a reality TV show. Maybe another show where you have all of the JFK Jr. contenders. It's like, which one's the real JFK Jr.? And you got Vincent Fuchsia, Edward X, Negative 49, Juan 07, Jesse Waters. How many other JFK Juniors are there floating around right now? Dirk says, if you don't be a JW, you will not have everlasting life. Well, someone had asked me about life after death and my thoughts about the continuation of the soul. And interestingly, a relative had died, and I was dealing with the situation. And our landlord shows up and says, oh, you know, your brother's not really dead, just asleep, but will come back to life during the resurrection. But you, if you join me, won't have to die. You won't have to pass through the veil of death, and you will have immortality. So I go over to her house where they have a JW meeting area. She offered me use of the pool. They had all these seats, and I was given literature so I could learn about how I can live forever and not have to die. And I was like, I wouldn't have gone. Like, looking back at it, I think she just caught me at a low point. And I was just, I guess for some reason I was open for answers. And I think this is how religions and cults prey on people. You get them at a low point. When someone dies or they have some tragedy, they just move, they're lost, they're lonely, something. And you move in and you say, I can solve all your problems. Selena says, "What's your take on September Clues by Simon Shack? We're watching a movie." Yeah, 100%. It was a movie. I could explain it really briefly. There's a good play you should watch called The Newsbenders, where this guy moves up in the news industry and he finds out that they write the news 5 years in advance. Does that sound impossible to you? Because every single psychological operation or PR stunt is in fact a scripted event. They implement it in real time. They hoax people into believing it. Or they augment reality with the stunt. So a publicity stunt is like a prefabricated scene in what becomes history. Now, there's a scale, a major difference in scale between a 9/11 and a closed movie set in a school, for example. But is it beyond the capacity of the mainstream media to fake a terror attack at that scale? Well, if you think no, look into the fact that on 9/11 there were 88 drills. The NRO, the National Reconnaissance Office, 88 drills. There were 1,000 mass casualty actors from various police departments and fire departments at work that day. What do you think they were doing? It was a closed set. So what you saw was and people will say it couldn't have been a movie. The buildings are gone. Yeah, that's a wildly oversimplistic straw man take on what we're saying here. For example, this is a composite thing where, yeah, a building did fall, but it doesn't mean it was taken down the way they said. It was a controlled demolition, but what you saw on TV painted it up as something different. Sort of like how in a mass casualty drill, it's just fake blood. They're acting. The Twin Towers were crisis actors. That's all. They weren't really hit by terrorists. They were crisis acting. Controlled demo, and even more, in my opinion, based on my experience with fog generators when I was in the military, I think that the smoke that they made such a big deal about wasn't smoke. I think those are military smog generators for cover, concealment, because you can't see through it. It's impenetrable. You can't use drones, you can't shoot lasers, and you can't see the movement of personnel. So like, you got a big plane part you want to drop in the middle of the road. Yeah, you do it under the cover of fog. I participated in drills where you move entire units under a fog. And my job was to drive the Humvee and operate the smog machine. It was part of my MOS. And we did this one operation at Fort McClellan where we're in this big field. And I could only describe it as pitch white. You can look up, look down, can't even see your hand in front of your face. It's so white. That's how strong. And you can see someone a few feet away. But yeah, it was a movie is what I'm saying. And it revealed quite a lot. It revealed that media globally is synchronized. What does that tell you about these different countries, different governments? There's an overarching power. What about the space program? Everyone agrees on that. International Space Station, same thing. So the premise here that what I'm saying, this is how it works, is that they write history by bending the news every single day along a trajectory that they have pre-planned. And that the major transformative events are all fake. And there may be a lot of real news in between, but media is a good liar. And good liars don't lie with every breath, because then they'd be crazy. You wouldn't listen to them. Good liars get your trust by not lying most of the time, but they do lie strategically when they can use it to gain advantage and power. So the media lied that day. And most of the people in media aren't apprised of the fakeability of these events or the scale at which they can fake things. Obrecht says Pentagon's construction started September 11, 1941. How far back does it go? In my opinion, how far back does it go? I mean, the Barron Trump predicted programming, and we have found other stuff. Because I think it's a continuation of an older system. It's just more unified now. Although, as far as like the modern PSYOP entertainment complex, okay, it's all about the emergence of this new order. Think about emergency and how 9/11, emergency. 311 is an emergency number. Like SOS, emergency. Emergency codes, emergencies used as a pretext for control. In other words, implement chaos impose order out of chaos. It's their MO. But one of the earliest examples I can find of this symbolism that seems to foreshadow the coming PSYOP entertainment complex might be as far back as 1906. I mean, for the space program, it goes back even further. But 1906 is when SOS became the international distress signal. 11.3. So 11.3, 1906, SOS. So 11.3 is a number like 311 that has some significance in this. But this stood out to me because 9/11 became the emergency code in 1968, the year that the Twin Towers construction began. 1968, AT&T announced it would establish the digits 911 as the emergency code through the through the USS, United States. So 9/11, 1968. The Twin Towers construction begins 1968. So 9/11 and the Twin Towers have always been paired. This has always been together, and it was always about the emergency, the crisis situations. And it's all about emergencies if you really look at all these different events and chaos. Selena says, 100% agreed. We had full mass drills at London Heathrow Airport with bloody casualties and emergency scenarios run through. Well, in Belgium, earlier this summer, they had a mass casualty operation, and I think they had 900 fake dead people going to various hospitals. Let's see if I can find that. It was some kind of operation in Belgium. It might even be an annual drill. Let me see if I can pull this up. Mass casualty, I think it was 900. Maybe it was more. How many people were in the mass casualty drill? The exercise simulated a collision between, large-scale emergency at Brussels Airport. Hundreds participate in this incident in Brussels. But I had found one incident where I think they had something like 800 or more crisis actors. Like a large number. I'm just bringing this up because you shouldn't underestimate the scale of the fakery and how possible it is. Lynn says, how do they do this and what for if it's not supernatural? Well, it's mind control. Why do liars lie to you? Why do control freaks and manipulators and psychopaths or sociopaths rather, why do they lie? Control. Why do cult leaders lie? And we're just in a very big cult. But it may be supernatural. It may be evil. There may be other elements to it. But my purpose here is to stick to the objective facts and not get misled prematurely by an explanation that says nothing else to know here. Because some people will say, man couldn't have done this. Well, we can't investigate the demiurge. We can't prove, we can't call or ask accountability of supernatural entities. So I'm like, no, let's follow this pyramid up to the top, and if we get to the point where it's supernatural, we'll let you know. But until we get to that point, we're going to assume it's man. Think about the Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz was a psyop. Didn't exist. But everybody believed it. It wasn't really a wizard. It was some guy with this strange machine behind the curtain. So we're here to pull down the curtain. The ubiquitous green screen. The green screened reality. Selena says, 9/11, 1960s Godspell movie, the song It's All for the Best, Someone's Got to Be Oppressed, filmed on top of the World Trade Center. Now, I mentioned 11.3 and SOS. Okay, so the difference between 9/11 and SOS is 9/11 is America. SOS is international emergency. So November the 3rd, 1906 is when SOS became the international sign of distress. The One World Trade Tower, which was built in the ashes of the twins, opened up on 11/3, 2014. So the date 11/3, the One World Tower opens, again replacing the twins, which were up for 33 years. A great deal of significance here to this building. It's 1,776 feet high, which has a connection to the Tower of Babel, among other things. It's a big syringe for another. I've talked about it extensively. New York is Babylon, this is the Tower of Babel. But again, it followed the big emergency, the 9/11 emergency, and then here it stands, 11/3. And 11/3 SOS International Emergency 2020 was an international emergency. So they took this, we can see the operation now clearly. Like when the 3/11 thing happened, it showed us that, yeah, we have this global monopoly on world view. And we were dragged into it collectively. And every major psyop drags us into it further. We were all taken to the moon. You know, we were all made to be afraid of the atomic bomb. We are all exposed to this event in 2020. It's ubiquitous. There's a one world order already here. It's not coming. It's like, oh, the new world order is coming. Be the resistance. Resistance is actually futile. Dirk says it has to be Satan. It's all done by numbers. At my point, it's supernatural. Many say so. The best you could possibly argue right now is that maybe it's people who are in touch with something supernatural, but that's as close as I'm willing to go. Because what I don't want to do is let the divine fallacy let the bad guys get away. Like if I had fallen for synchromysticism as the ultimate explanation for these eerie coincidences, I never would have found out or discovered or discerned the meta script and the scripters and concurrent programming, which concurrent programming debunks all previous predictive programming explanations. All right, well, this has been great. I want to say thanks, everyone, for hanging out. Oh, wait, one more thing. Obrique says 911 days after 9/11 was the Madrid train event, killing 191 people on March 11th. You know, I checked that one on Snopes. And Snopes actually covered it. So 911 days after 9/11, you had the bombing. I think it's on Snopes, because they looked into this and it was 100%. Here we go. 911 days after the September 11th attacks. And they said they did it that many days because of the symbolic and Kabbalistic charge for local Al-Qaeda troops that day. Now that's strange. Or is it? What happened to Madrid, Spain on 3/11/2004? Explosions killed 193 people. But yeah, the connection here, the 911 days in between, this is planning. Very, very interesting. And one more point. The people at the very top would obviously be the ones who know what's going to happen 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. From that perspective, it's easy to make all roads lead to 9/11. Like all these big movies that make it to this level must carry these propaganda messages. Look at it as product placement. Hey, we're selling people on a worldview. Will you place some terrorists in your movies? They don't have to know why. The low-level programmers are just carriers. They're propaganda mules. And as long as the ones higher up have the right message and know what goes in it, it sounds to me very easy. You know, the directorship over the worldview we share. You know, who's behind Big Brother's lens finder? I'm not 100% sure, but somebody's there. And it's top-down control. Ted Stryker says, remember when De Niro did the SNL skit making fun of the names of hijackers shortly after it happened? Okay. Yeah, somebody laughed at Snopes. Look, Snopes is Snopes, but sometimes they actually have to confront facts and they can't hide them. Virtual Reality Witness says, we live in a supernatural virtual reality flat realm. No curvature, no edge, no ice wall, borders that loop. Oh, like Pac-Man. Dirk Zink, I love your channel. I'll call in soon. Okay, good. Well, yeah, call in and disagree, agree. It's all good. Oh, Brick says you call Kubrick a bad guy. He's a meta scripter. Are they bad? I don't know. I mean, it depends on how you look at it. Is this a benevolent dictatorship? Is this the best case scenario for us to coexist peacefully? To replace physical war as much as possible with culture and psychological war. Cultural war, psychological war. Maybe that's the case. I'm not sure. I recently watched Fly Me to the Moon about faking the moon landing. It had numerous examples of Boeing being associated with disaster. But it also had a character in there who looked just like Stanley Kubrick. Scarlett Johansson stars in this one. She also stars in Asteroid City, where the main character is based on Stanley Kubrick. So Kubrick is a very important meta scripter in all of this. But I wouldn't say that, oh, this one guy, Kubrick, is the mastermind. No, he's part of a bigger group. Plain Dakota says, do you intentionally steer away from making claims on who the overlords are? I intentionally steer away from making claims that I can't back up with facts, and I stay clear of obvious red herrings that fool some of the dumbest people on the internet. And I'm sorry, but the Hitler fan club are the dumbest people on the internet. And they'll say, oh, it's the Jews. You won't say the Jews. It's like, no, I don't know that. And you're not in any kind of a position to tell me what's real and fake, because the people who fall for that psyop think the news is real. It's not an auto-hoaxer perspective. It's not a skeptical perspective to say, I know that this group did it. No, that's such an easy red herring to avoid. So it's like, I'm comfortable saying I don't know. I don't know. I got question marks. Do you know? And if you know, prove it then, please. Etheric Bless says, cultural wars, psychological wars create wars in real life, kinetic wars, benevolence. No, I don't think so. When I hear kinetic, that's a code word. People say, yeah, it may be fake here and there, Tim, but it's going to go kinetic. Shit's going to hit the fan. No, it's not. It's not going to end. You can go ahead and sell your MREs, sell your ammunition, and buy popcorn and get your Netflix subscriptions if you want to follow the mind war, because that's what's going on here. It's not going to escalate. It's not going to go kinetic. These psyops aren't going to trigger anything. And if they have you thinking so, then they control you. They have you in a defensive posture. And I'm not feeling insecure about my safety. I'm not in a defensive posture. And I want to allude to something here. Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals number 9. And this is kind of significant because Rules for Radicals, Saul Alinsky, of course, is associated with Clinton and Obama. But more interestingly is he dedicated his book to Lucifer. I think he said, I'll see if I can find the quote here. I think he called, here it is. Lest we forget, at least an over-the-shoulder acknowledgement to the very first radical from our legends, our mythology, and our history, and who knows where mythology leaves off and history begins, or which is which. The first radical known to man who rebelled against the establishment and did it so effectively that he won his own kingdom, Lucifer. So he has this little homage to Lucifer at the beginning, but rule number 9, the threat of the thing is more terrifying than the thing itself. We have a big event, big terror attack. It changes the game for a period of time after. And one of the big threats is that they're going to take your guns. One of the big threats, it's going to go kinetic, or it's going to get real. And no, it's not. It's not. And if you think it is, prove it to me. Show me your bomb shelter. Show me your ammo. If you really believe in nukes, do you have duck and cover drills at your home? If you believe in space junk, do you wear a helmet? If you believe in sky poisons injected by airplanes into the stratosphere, do you wear a mask? The answer to this is no. No truthers take their truth that seriously. It's all just clickbait, outrage bait, and mind war. Mind junk. You've been on a steady diet of mind junk and addicted to hopium for too long, and you get caught up in a false worldview. That's even falser than the mainstream false worldview. Okay, well, Dirk says news is fake. Joe Rogan, Russell Brand, are controlled ops, just like Alex Jones. Yeah, they're all the same team. They're all on the same team. And how do you know? You know they're on the same team when they all adhere to the same big lies. All right, well, this has been great. We'll continue this conversation soon. I'm going to be in the Discord server off and on. This is Auto Hoaxology by Symbia, and this is going to return to the 24/7 on the backup YouTube channel and others.
Just because you saw it on the screen doesn't make it real. I don't take the red pill, I don't take the blue pill. I just choose to follow my dreams, auto hoax and chill. I stepped off the world stage and I moved away from all the fake outrage and the hearsay. And I don't give the time of day to lose a naysay, because they got a bad case of the mind age. I stepped away from the game entirely. I won't be caught up in their lame dichotomy. I stepped away from the cage entirely. I'm free today and my mind's been set by reading out of hoaxology, out of the control system finally. I know where to go if you follow me, cause I've been reading out of hoaxology. Nothing can bother me, out of hoaxology. Won't put the screen before it's blasphemy. I won't become another mind war casualty. I came up out the realm of possibility to take the helm of this reality. Cause I've been chillin', reading out of hoaxology, rejecting all the expectations of the auto-believer, to become a new creation on the raft of receiver. Standing on the sword of truth, I step the backs of deceiver, demanding burdens further proof from all the hacks and believers. I stepped away from the game entirely. I won't be caught up in the lame dichotomy. I stepped away from the cage entirely. I'm free today and my mind's been set by reading auto hoaxology, out of the control system finally. I know where to go if you follow me, cause I've been reading auto hoaxology. Nothing can bother me, auto hoaxology. Won't put the screen before it's blasphemy. I won't become another mind war casualty. I came up out the realm of possibility to take the helm of this reality. Cause I've been chillin', reading out of hoaxology, suspending all the judgment, you won't get a reaction. Won't defend it, I won't budge until I get all the facts in. I won't argue with the bots about the next current thing, crying over the fake bodies like a bitter death clinger.